Everyone, at 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call together the November 20th, 2025 school committee meeting. If you would please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. This evening we have our consent agenda posted, which are the minutes from our November 6th, 2025 school committee meeting, as well as the oath of bills and payroll. Everybody can review the minutes. Questions? Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda? So moved. Motion made by Sean.
Second.
Seconded by Janine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, it carries. This is our first opportunity for interested citizens. If there's anybody with us this evening, they're in person or on Zoom, that would like to speak before the school committee. This is your first opportunity. To be a second opportunity, the second half, towards the back half of the meeting. One here, no one on Zoom. We'll close interested citizens and we'll move into our student recognition report. So Sid has prepared a student recognition report for us. Would we share that with the committee?
So Sugar Lane recently had their attending conferences, and the staff put hours of work into preparing these meetings to track student progress and achievements. The staff would also like to congratulate Superintendent Clenchey on his upcoming retirement and thank him for all his service over the many years he's been in Littleton. Sugar Lane would like to wish everyone a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And for Russell Street, the third grade team hosted their stargazing event on Tuesday with the help of faculty members and students from MIT Haystack Observatory. There were clear skies and a great turnout. The third grade team looks forward to making it a tradition. Russell Street is also hosting a food drive through November 21st. Items can be left in the boxes in the main lobby of the school. And Russell Street also wishes everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving break. Moving on to the middle school, parent-teacher conferences at Littleton Middle School went very well, and there's a sincere thank you to all families who attended. And congrats to LHS girls soccer coach and LMS math teacher, Jen Goff. LMS will be rooting for you as the soccer goes on. And moving on to the high school, Tuesday, 11/20, the Latin Club attended the Massachusetts Classics Day at Boston University. And on Friday, November 21st, the girls varsity soccer team will compete against Sutton for the state championship at 7 p.m. Doyle Field in Leominster. On Tuesday, November 25th, the annual Powder Puff game at Alumni Field will occur at 6 p.m. And Thursday, November 27th, there will be the annual Rotary Breakfast at the LMS CAF from 6:30 a.m. to 10 a.m., as well as the Thanksgiving football game that same day against Air Shirley at 10 a.m. Tuesday, December 2nd, the guidance is going to host the college financial aid planning at 6 p.m. in the auditorium. And lastly, on December 4th to 7th, LHS Fall Play will be presented by the Drama Club Our Town. Performances will be held on 7 p.m. from Thursday to Saturday and Sunday at 1 p.m.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll now pass the meeting over to Superintendent Ellie Clenchey for other moments of recognition or the scheduled introductions.
Yeah. My pleasure to introduce Aaron Bro, who is our new food services director. Aaron has been with us for almost a month now, I would believe.
A month and a couple weeks.
Yes. So Aaron has acclimated very well to the new position. I have to say I am a user of the food at the cafeteria, and I have noticed no difference at all. It just seems to be continuing to move along. So kudos to Aaron for being able to just pick up and move right on with our food services program. I'm really pleased that Aaron and Leah are communicating a lot. So it's nice to have a team already there. And together, they'll do some great things. Leah in Maine and Aaron here. So thank you. We're thrilled to have you within our district. And I just thought it was important that the school committee had a chance to meet you and see you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be part of the Littleton team.
Thank you. And our next introduction, I'm going to have Principal Eberhardt do.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, parents clap too.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. She just asked if she didn't have to come up, and I was like, oh, trial by fire.
Oh, you'll.
Welcome, everybody. I want to introduce Beth Johan. She is the new assistant principal at Littleton Middle School. Our previous AP was Balabanji. He became principal at Veterans Memorial Middle School in Marblehead this fall, which is it's the coaching tree, right? That's what you want. You want your APs to learn what they need to learn and take their own schools. And so he was able to do that. And so after quite a long search in 3 rounds, we had more than 60 candidates apply, which is really unheard of. You know, we have Beth, and she comes to us originally from Massachusetts through California and now back. And so we're very excited to have her. She's been a great fit so far, and I'll turn her over to you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm thrilled to be here both tonight and in Littleton. I've worked in several districts, and this by far has the most community support. And so that's really special to be in a place that has that. And yeah, so far it's been a wonderful experience, both with students, staff, and getting to know the parents. And it's been wonderful. So I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to continued success. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Welcome. Both of you. Aaron, Beth, thank you for both joining us.
Sure. As I said before, sorry, my first meeting, I should have come up here to the podium. It's a pleasure to be in Littleton. It's a pleasure to inherit such a wonderful program. Really looking forward to carrying on Leah's legacy on what she's built here over the past 4 years with all the local food being brought in and fed to our students. I feel like that is tremendously important in this industry. It's very easy to order a bunch of prepackaged, manufactured, over-processed foods and have them slapped on a tray. But to me, that's just not what school lunch is about anymore. There's a lot of scratch cooking. There's a lot of farm to table. And that's the kind of stuff that excites my passion. So it is wonderful to come into a district where that is already in place. The teams already have the skills to execute those type of menus. And I can't wait to go up from here. So thank you all for having me, and look forward to some wonderful years of success coming up. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
I was just being easy on you tonight here. I didn't know Jason was going to do that to his new assistant principal.
We're very happy to have you both. Big shoes to fill in both areas, by the way, but I believe you're both up for the challenge. You all set?
Yes.
Okay, we've got a couple of pieces of new business. We've got a number of presentations to get through this evening. The first of which is a request of the town clerk. So town clerk Diane Corey will request the school committee to make a motion to consider placing a new town-funded shed for storing election materials at the middle school. Invite you to the podium, please, to give us the details.
Good evening, Diane Corey, Littleton Town Clerk. Thank you for having me this evening. Basically, what I'm looking to do is get permission from you to have a shed built and placed behind the middle school. At this point in time, I'm using the entire storage area that's in the gymnasium. And obviously, it's a detriment to you folks because I'm using it and you're not able to use it. So this is kind of a win-win. As well, it wouldn't cost you anything. We would be paying for it. We would be taking care of it at all times. We won't be putting any kind of electricity or heat or anything like that, so there would be no issues with that. And it's just a matter of permission from you to say, yes, we can do it. We're actually looking to Neshoba Tech to build it for us. We've already gone to Dr. Pigeon, and so she's to the vote council, and they're going to be getting back to me and letting me know when we can start the process, if we get permission from you.
Great. You know how big the shed is going to be?
We don't at this point in time. It's just a matter of looking at what we have in the storage area and figuring out what size we need for that.
Sounds good.
Just for clarification, the voting machines themselves, you lock those away.
Yeah, so the actual brains, they stay at the town hall, they're locked in the vault.
Yeah.
And then the newer machine, the body of the machine, they will stay in there's a small little compartment that sits behind the storage area, so we'll kind of keep those four boxes in there, but everything else will come out.
So it's just like the banners and the,
Yeah, the actual voting booths.
in the booths,
All the
yeah.
booths, all the tables, all the extensions that we put in between.
Yeah, the stuff.
flags, everything that goes, out on election day, it will be giving you back that whole area, so.
Sounds great.
Do you have any idea where it'll go?
Well, I'm gonna talk, Eric Bentley and I have had a couple of conversations, it's just a matter of, if we get permission, we didn't want to go too far.
Sure.
If we didn't get permission, it didn't make sense to.
Yeah.
Figure things out until we wouldn't go any further until, we get the permission, then we're gonna go to the next step to see how big we needed it, and then the next step to see where. Which each step would come back and let you know.
Sounds very fair.
Mhm.
Sounds like a great idea. I'm fully in support of it. My only concern would be, and I shared this with you on the phone.
Yep.
Is we were approached by the Littleton Youth Lacrosse a few years ago, and we're like, of course you can have a shed. Clerk's office, of course, you can have a shed, then we're gonna hear from baseball, like, we're gonna end up with Shed City behind the middle school.
Yeah.
So, just getting an understanding that you'll come back before the shed goes in to let us know exactly where it is, so that we're mainly the school department and the custodial staff are okay with the placement.
Yeah.
And perhaps, I don't know if there are any other organizations that would need a shed, like maybe we could do. You
No,
can't think of anything, any other uses?
No, lacrosse already has one. Baseball uses the storage over at Alumni Field. They have a shed over there. Basketball doesn't need one. Football doesn't need one, so.
I mean, the only other thing is, I know that, right at this moment in time, that you have all the chairs that you put in,
We have the chairs in
The Alumni
a
Field.
storage trailer over at Alumni Field.
I mean, if you were looking to move those over as well, we could possibly think about putting them in there as well, try to make it, you may not all be able to fit in there, but maybe we could make some kind of accommodation to bring some of them over.
Yeah.
To help
We
out.
consolidate things a little bit.
Are those the same chairs that get used for graduation?
Yes,
So that's why they're at Alumni
yes, that's
Field?
why we put a storage trailer at Alumni Field, and it's full of chairs. It's full.
But we also use them for town meeting.
We use them for town meeting.
So I don't have any questions or objections to you moving forward with the project, so long as you just come back and let us know. Sounds like size of shed and location,
Yep.
final location.
I'm only gonna make one suggestion, make sure you have a shed that has plenty of ventilation.
Yeah.
Because, we've had sheds in the past that didn't have ventilation and things got kind of gross inside, so,
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Right, so it's school property, we should do a motion, we should vote this through. Even though the clerk's gonna come back and give us the final details, but that's the confidence you want to proceed with the project, so is there?
So
a
can
motion?
I make a move that the school committee okays the town clerk to move forward with plans to create a shed to provide storage for town election materials and other things as we see fit. Does that sound all right?
Yep, at the
Okay.
middle school.
Behind the middle school will be the designated.
Motion made by Janine,
Second.
seconded by Elaine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thanks so much for visiting with us.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
thanks.
All right, second piece of new business evening is superintendent's letter of intent to retire July 1st, 2026 / transition. The superintendent and school committee will begin outlining a process for the transition to a new superintendent of schools. All right, so communication has gone out district-wide. Probably not catching anybody by surprise, but in the event that you are hearing this for the first time, Dr. Kelly Clenchey has informed the school committee of his intent to retire July 1st, 2026. This was planned retirement. We're very gracious of the advance notice. Really couldn't have asked for a much better situation here, so we're thankful. We recognize your 15 years of service. We've all individually wished you goodwill, thanks across the board. So at this point in time, we wish to discuss how we need to get organized in the transition period. So we were fortunate, the three of us that attended the school committee conference down in the Cape had an opportunity to chat with Massachusetts Association of School Committees, who had some information for us about the process. And Superintendent Clenchey, of course, she'll be a resource. And there are other places for us to turn, but one of the first pieces of business that we wanted to accomplish tonight is a discussion, but I think one of the things that we should try to move forward this evening is creating a subcommittee to sort of spearhead these efforts. A subcommittee of 2 members, that way those 2 folks could work independently, sort of off meeting cycle. We wouldn't have a quorum. They'd be able to do research, gather some information, and then continuously come back to the school committee for updates.
Should this committee include people from the community?
No,
No.
Not at this time.
So this would be a getting ready for the committee,
This is the subcommittee.
the subcommittee.
You would be working on, I may be making an assumption, but I'm assuming you would be hiring MSC to conduct the search.
That's one of the things the subcommittee can talk about, because there are other options.
Couple.
there are a couple options. So the Massachusetts Association of School Committees has got a number of available resources to us, which are included in our membership. And then they offer a solution all the way, bells and whistles, and we pay them a fee, and it's pretty hands-off for us. So the subcommittee will be charged with evaluating all of our options in terms of how we wish to organize the search. Probably, I would think, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but I'll cover the basics. Probably in charge of gathering some information or outlining some communication in terms of community feedback. So we wish to make available, or I wish to make available, not speaking for the committee, I wish to make available an opportunity to hear from our community members about what they feel is important in a superintendent. And we can do that a number of different ways. Subcommittee will evaluate them, of course, but a survey, information sessions, in person and virtual. And the subcommittee will also be in charge of likely organizing a screening committee. And Ginny, that's where members of the community will get involved.
Okay.
And the screening committee for applicants would likely consist of school committee, faculty and staff, and other members of the community, you know, those that represent different subgroups within the Littleton Public School population. Or even community members at large,
Plus
if they're so
town,
inclined,
plus town representative as well.
plus town representatives. Ginny, Elaine, I'll kind of go around here. Do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, just when we met with our field director from Mass Association of School Committees, when we were at the conference, and she outlined the steps that they would guide us through. There's quite a bit that they would do simply because we're members of the association, so it would be without charge. It's just if we ask them to take us over the finish line, then it would be a fee of $11,500. But that seemed like we would be. My feeling on that was that we would be turning over more than we would necessarily want. Like I feel like we have the capacity within the school committee and within the stakeholders that we recruit to do a lot of that work ourselves. That was my impression. Not sure how others felt about it, but
I feel similarly. I think my initial thought was, we just had tremendous success with the Shaker Lane project. The community really came out in support of the schools. I believe it's going to be a really sought for position. We're a high performing school district. We just had two new individuals come and tell us how great it is to work in this town. We have a superintendent who's going out on good terms. I think, you know, the thought process is there'll be a number of applicants. And I didn't want to take the hands-off approach, like, we'll meet you when you get hired. It was like, no, we want to, that's not the impression I wanted to give. It was, we want to be involved in the process. But as I think what we'll do is we'll have the subcommittee sort of evaluate all the options, report back to us, you know, maybe as early as next meeting. or it would be that meeting early in January. We got to make a decision by that. In terms of the timeline for the committee and the public, we would hope that the subcommittee would do a lot of this work, come back to school committee. I would think likely the January meeting. Be able to go through or get community committee buy-in on a process and sort of kickstart it. And perhaps we could have the job posting in second half of January, conduct screenings and interviews in March. And in an ideal timeframe, we'd be looking to make an offer or start, negotiating a contract in March. Their start date would likely be July 1st, but we would hope to be able to negotiate some sort of overlap between the departing superintendent and the new superintendent coming in, so that there could be some cross training and some getting to know the district and the community. In a perfect world, that's how it would take place.
And the other thing so Sean was able to join us virtually for this meeting, so it was the four of us that met with our field director. But the other nice thing about working with MASC is that we would be working with Alicia Mallon, who's the Northeast field director, but she's on the Neshoba Tech School Committee.
Okay.
So she knows our community. I've worked with her in a couple different capacities already. So she came to us with a lot of knowledge, a lot of enthusiasm for supporting us. However we define that we would like to have that support. So
A couple things I heard, just to add to this, is that it isn't, our choices aren't just either the full services MASC or doing it ourselves, but they did mention there are a couple other firms that do it, and I would hope that the subcommittee for due diligence would at least make a phone call to one or two of the other firms just to say, could you tell us what your services are, how much you are, just so we can do an apples to apples comparison on what's out there and think about it that way. And the other thing I heard, they had a full service, MASC has a full service, but I don't think that we have to keep our hands off, we're the ones hiring the service. So if we want to hire a full service and say, this is really nice, we want our people involved here and here and here, that's certainly something we can take to a service provider and say, since we're the ones writing the check, this is how we'd like to handle this, which I'm not afraid to do at all. So, and that was just something because, and I'll tell you, I'm falling back on that because I've never done this before. I feel like this is not my wheelhouse. But so if there is someone who's really knows how to do it, I would love their expertise,
Well, I do have some expertise, but
yeah,
the search consultant or organization never uses a hands-off approach. That would be a recipe for failure. They do bring some expertise to the table in terms of how do you organize a screening committee? How do you design questions that's going to allow you to take input from your community, your administrators, your staff, and design questions that you're going to get the right answers to. It's not easy to design questions in terms of questions that you're going to have to consistently use from candidate to candidate, because your process has to be solid that way. If it's not, you lend yourself to some unpleasant experiences. So I think that's where some expertise needs to come in here. They do typically work with your communities. They have experience of how to create the venues to get the input that they need. But in my experience of 27 years of being a superintendent, recruited many times, I've never seen a process where the school committee wasn't involved in determining what was happening during the stages. The final interview in the process is always, the school committee interviewing 3 candidates, 4 candidates, and the school committee makes the decision to hire the superintendent. Nobody else has that.
Right, thank you for clarifying. Perhaps we should have said that. So the job will get posted, applications will come in. The screening committee would be responsible for sifting through the applications. They would then select a pool of candidates that they invite in for interviews. Definitely interviews in Littleton. Maybe it gets whittled down and maybe the screening committee wants to actually visit, do away visits where we would visit the candidates district. And then ultimately, they put forward to the school committee at least 2, not more than 4, I believe was MCAS's recommendation, but then the ideal number being 3. And then the school committee would have the opportunity for final interviews and decision. I have never been, none of us, I don't believe, have been involved in the process of hiring a superintendent.
No.
Looking at you.
No,
Sure.
I've-
Okay.
Close, but not quite.
I've been involved in the hiring of the town administrator twice, and it's a very similar process. John, any takeaways from the conversation we had
Yeah,
with MCAS or
Yeah.
Chair?
I think, maybe not even just takeaways, I think you guys kind of covered that part, but I think you kind of highlighted, we just went through this process to vote for a new school. You kind of have these connections in the community now that are kind of still fresh. I think it's gonna be really important to use that to kind of keep conversations flowing as we make this decision. And whether it's a survey or an outreach, I think that's gonna be really important.
And I'll say I've already been approached by a number of individuals who wish to participate in the process. So that's a positive thing. There's a lot of good momentum here in terms of community. That's great. So I'll be sure to notify those folks of opportunities. But there isn't anything else to add. I think we should talk about the 2 who wishes to be on the subcommittee. It's unfortunate Beanle's not here. I'm gonna say she's gonna be okay with whatever we decide tonight, I think, but it's fluid too, so. All of the committee members are welcome to participate in this. It's just, I don't ever want to have more than 2 of us working together, because then we would end up with a quorum of the school committee. And we'd be in violation of open meeting law. So, does anybody have a strong desire to spearhead these efforts?
I'd be interested.
Me too.
Whatever people desire, sounds great to me.
I'm kind of torn either way. I'm happy to assist, but also happy to sort of take a back seat from a subcommittee role. So if the 2 of you are most definitely interested, I'm certainly okay with that.
Mhm.
You okay
That
with
sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, it sounds like we'll be doing a lot of the homework behind the scenes, but bringing everything to the full committee. So it's going to be very transparent. Just step by step.
So things like if we want to create a survey for the town, like what they're looking, what they feel, like just get a read of the town. Can we do that one by one, with contributions and like bring ideas to the 2 of them without creating quorum?
So I think what you could do is you could share your ideas with Elaine or Sean, either in person or in writing.
Okay,
What I wouldn't want you doing is emailing the 2 of them and talking about things, because then the 3 of you are on the same email chain.
understood. Yes,
And
I
there
appreciate that. Thank
are
you.
surveys that are available from MASC. My recommendation is that you look at them and tweak them if you want. But
Yeah.
remember, when you survey, the accuracy of the survey usually depends on those questions being field tested. So that we know that the questions are going to get the results that they're supposed to be getting. Development surveys is an easy process, I'll be honest with you. So, but if you have a template to look at, then those tweaks are easier to do and still have fidelity to the survey. I think that's what you really need here. Because that data that you accumulate needs to be accurate. You don't want any false readings in any of your questions.
And that was when we talked with Alicia Mallon from MASC. She was talking about that as well, that she would walk us through questions that other districts have used in their surveys to the community, the way people have organized community forums to get in-person feedback. So they'll guide us through best practices through this whole process. And Janine, you mentioned other organizations that do searches. I did pick up something at the conference, so many things to share with people. But there's the New England School Development Council. They're another one that does searches, so we can contact them, to your point, to perform our due diligence and make sure that we're not just going with MASC because they're the ones that are familiar with it to us. But,
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're getting started.
It's like you guys have already done a lot of research on this, so thank you. That's great.
Well, thank you for giving us the heads up because, being able to start now instead of later in the school year gives us the time to really do this well. So we appreciate the timing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And then I feel good about this because you are going to have the necessary time to employ a process that will be very effective. And NASDAQ is a reputable organization as well. I think their office is still in Marlboro. So.
Mhm.
And I'll just add, in the event that we have internal applicants, that would be a welcomed process as well. We've mentioned searches and it feels like it's like we're gonna go out and find somebody brand new. That might be the case, or we might have somebody in the district as well that has expressed an interest and we might find them to be a perfect fit. So I'm just sharing that with everybody publicly. So if it's okay with the two of you, if you guys could run with this and come back next school committee meeting with a plan for community involvement, survey, I think maybe like the questions associated with the community involvement or the discussion to lead the community involvement, and then the research on firms to help assess, and also a subcommittee, a screening committee breakdown, the positions that need to be filled within a screening committee based upon the research that you've conducted. So like you might come back and say, it's our recommendation that there's 15 people on it and it's whatever.
Yep.
Seven from within the staff and 8 from when not in the staff, and we want, we need to make sure we've got all these boxes checked.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And then at upcoming school committee meetings, we'll just be part of the subcommittee reports at the end of the meeting. So, right, so every meeting we'll report out on where we are with the process.
That, or we could have it as new business in the beginning at half of the meeting.
Okay, like depending on how much we have to share.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like sometimes we get to subcommittee reports and it's 9:30.
Right.
So I wouldn't be opposed to putting this on as a new business item agenda, a new business or a continuation of old business. So that we get it in the first half of the meeting.
All
right.
right. Title of the subcommittee, Superintendent Search Subcommittee, what you would prefer to use?
Do we need to vote on creating a new subcommittee?
Yes, you do.
Is there a motion for the creation of a superintendent search subcommittee? Motion made by Sean,
Second.
seconded by Elaine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect, creation. And then I will move that Sean Ahern and Elaine Saltzman are our 2 committee members.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
There you go. All right, you know what you're doing, you know who you are, and you know what you're doing?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. That wraps up the new business for the evening, and we're gonna roll into our presentations. Got 4 scheduled for this evening, the first of which is an update of safety and security. Our school resource officer, Meg Wazinski, will give an overview of the school safety training and procedures. Welcome, brother. Welcome. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you. This office is really so I want to be the dead horse tonight. I promise. I don't know. Talk about it. Thanks. Good evening. Thank you guys for having me. Just want to give a brief update on our district's safety and security efforts. So we continue to train under the ALICE protocol, which is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. This remains our standard for active threat response. ALICE is an options-based approach that empowers staff and students to make the safest decisions in a violent intruder situation.
We remain committed to keeping this training consistent and up to date. Thank you to Beth. She provided the copy of the concepts for you guys, just to review. As of the beginning of October, all of our fall drills have been completed with success. We did have a few issues back in the spring, and those issues were resolved, and everyone did a great job this fall. So moving on, last December, we completed a reunification tabletop exercise here at the PD with all of our administrators and public safety personnel. Did the chief come last year and
Yes.
give an update on that? Okay. So we're now working to expand that training to include most, if not all, staff. So I'm in the early planning stages, and I'm partnering actually with the Topsfield, one of their police captains, and the superintendent, the Tri-Fold County, I believe it's in Milford, Oxford, and Topsfield. They routinely run reunification drills there. So with their experience, hopefully that would be a valuable resource as we continue developing our district-wide reunification planning. I also want to express my appreciation for Dr. Clenchey. With your progressiveness and strong support in your leadership, it's been key in moving this work forward. So thank you for that. As we continue planning, our next steps include it's going to be a 2-day training. So the first day is going to be classroom based, and basically we'll do like a walkthrough of how the actual drill will go. Second day will be the full scale drill. So obviously that will include our school teams and public safety partners. Lastly, all I have is some recent trainings that I've attended since the beginning of the school year. So I've been to a bus enforcement and safety seminar, behavioral threat assessment training, the standard response protocol and standard reunification method, which is through the I Love You Guys Foundation, and a seminar on challenges and solution in school safety, which was put on by MPY just on Tuesday, which was where I got the contact information actually for Topsfield. And I'm also scheduled to attend a threat and risk assessment training in a couple weeks, which I'm looking forward to. And I don't know what I have for you guys. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, happy to answer this.
Yeah, when you're talking about reunification, is that after the evacuate step and you've got folks that
So yes, reunification
Out in the
is
field.
after a violent incident occurs. This is what happens after. So this is the steps that the school administration would take in reunifying the students with their parents.
Okay, and I thought we heard last year that you were shifting to a new, like shifting away from Alice and.
So yeah,
shifting to
so
different-
it's called Alert, and I actually just sat in on a training with one of our other officers who is certified to teach it. And I personally like the Alice protocol better, and just the terminology and the way that it's relayed to the students, I think is more appropriate. Where Alert is good for an adult population.
Mhm.
So I'm actually going to work with the chief and my Sergeant Pablo Fernandez and our Lieutenant Doug Landry to see which one we think is going to better suit the school moving forward. So as of right now, we're going to remain with Alice. They're essentially the same concepts, just the wording is a little bit different. But I think Alice has been successful here up until this point, and there's no need to change something if it works. So it'll be a conversation that we're going to start to have over the next month or so, and kind of figure out which route we're going to take. And then obviously we'll bring it back to you guys. And depending on what you guys feel, we'll obviously make a decision based on that.
And what has your experience been with the practices with students? It's been many years now that they've been trained on the Alice protocol. So are they starting to sort of take it in stride more than they were in the beginning years of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Shaker Lane does a great job from the get-go. So by the time they get to Russell Street, it's already second nature.
Yeah.
And by the time they get to the high school, they might roll their eyes a little bit, but
Yeah.
but they do it and they get through it. And every year we try to add a little bit more of a stressor component to it. So it gives the kids a little bit more of a real life effect.
Yeah.
We do fire drills all the time and they go up the same route every time, right? It's not necessarily the same case for a safety drill. So we try to change it up in the fall and the spring, and we do a different location in the schools, and kids have to think on their feet and make real time decisions.
Yeah.
And the older they get, the better they get. So I've had a very good experience over the last couple of years. And the principals have been great, and very willing to take on new approaches and try new things. And, you know, it's important to be progressive this day and age, and the principals have been, so I'm very appreciative of that.
Thank you.
Sid, is there anything amongst the student population in regard to these drills that you might want to share?
Yeah, I think the ALS drills are really useful. We usually do them like a practice drill, we do an advisory, and I think the teachers do a good job of like leading students and like showing like what are the best routes and how to think on a real life situation that it's meant for. So I think, yeah, the ALS drill has been working really well from my experience and my peers as well.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, obviously we're replacing Shaker in a couple of years. Does that make sense on the building? I know right now, I believe we assess building security and surveillance annually. Is there any benefit doing that a little bit more regularly, or are you pretty confident in just doing it once a year?
I mean,
So
What happens is our dispatcher is checking those cameras probably weekly.
yeah, so, and
So it's pretty frequent now. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all interconnected, which is so powerful, because if something ever happened, they have access, immediate access to our camera.
yeah, dispatch actually has the cameras up and running 24/7. So if you popped your head in right there right now, we could see everything that's happening at schools. So,
Great.
and it's constantly, we do 911 button checks, our panic alarms. We test those 3 times a year in all the schools. And that's another thing that we check is the cameras to make sure that they're working in there, because obviously if we talk about real time information, that's where we're going to get it usually. And they're obviously the first people who's getting the phone call, right? So they can give out that real time information just based off what they're seeing from those cameras. So it's definitely something that is checked throughout the year. And obviously if there's an issue with it, it's fixed that day.
Great.
So.
Thank you.
And the New Shaker Lane School will have a credible security system in it. They've been working with LPDP.
Yeah, I've sat in on a few of those meetings, and I hope to continue to as you know, we get further into that project, but they're doing great things with that school, and congratulations, by the way. It's very exciting for you guys. Exciting for me too, exciting for us, so.
So the new school will have a primary, secondary security, but it's designed so that each grade level neighborhood will be self-contained. So if we need to section that school off or do a lockdown, those neighborhoods will be locked down. So this is really incredible what they can do in this day and age for security.
Good. Thank you.
I don't want to sound like a dead horse, but would you check with your fellow SRO group, your advisory group?
Mhm.
I mentioned this before, when I visited other districts, you know, going to ball fields and stuff, I see some districts have got the windows numbered.
So I can actually touch on that.
Oh,
So
I'd love to
actually
get-
today,
yeah.
I went to all the schools. All of the schools have numbered exterior doors and inside, with the exception of Russell Street. So I touched base with Andrew Romano today. They had a few doors replaced over
Okay.
the summer, and those doors have not gotten new numbers yet. So she's going to work with Eric Bentley to get that fixed. But all of the schools have labeled exterior doors.
The doors are
The
numbered.
doors,
Which
yeah.
makes perfect sense.
Yes, which in an incident where police or fire are responding, we're the ones who utilize that.
Mhm.
Everyone in their own buildings, they know where their classrooms are, they know, you know, what numbers are. That's more so for us. And everything is already labeled perfectly.
Okay.
So that's,
So I'm noticing some districts have the windows numbered.
yeah,
And
I'm not entirely sure what the benefit of that at this point is, but that is actually something that's on the list of things that I want to ask the
okay,
Topsfield superintendent and the captain who I plan to meet with, because they have made mention of that during their presentations.
okay,
And there's not a one size fits all, you know. I think each jurisdiction does it differently, so
Sure.
I'm gonna see what they do, and then if they have valid reasoning for why they have it on their windows, then obviously we can address that. But sometimes having too much information on windows, I would just be a little bit hesitant of.
yeah, I think that's all I'm asking is just, you know, investigate where the sort of the Northeast or nationally where we're at with that? Because
Yeah.
I did like a little bit of preliminary research. It seemed like it was even state law in some states.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're Littleton's above the curve where we already have all those windows or doors, excuse me, doors,
Yeah.
inside and outside labeled. So,
In
but
bigger districts, I could see some benefit because it's very hard to know square footage of the schools. I know when I lived in the city, it was actually mandatory that we had our house sign on the front and in the rear as well on the fence or whatever we had at the back, just so if it wasn't an emergency, they had two ways to identify the house. So I think this is, from my own experience, it's indicative of a big district where it's very, very hard to expect the responding team to know the insides of the school.
Sure.
It's impossible for them, but because we only have 4 schools and all of our police officers go through our schools, they have that memory already. So I think it really, to me, it depends on the size and how active your police force is and knowing where every corner of our schools are.
No, I can appreciate that, but of course, there's always, the first, like, let's say you're off that day, you're going somewhere else. So the first responder might be someone who's only been here for a week. It happens, it could happen, or it could be the gas company is the first responder. It could be Littleton Electric that's the first responder.
Yeah.
They might not know. So all I'm saying is just see what sort of the trend is these days. And if the trend is we should have these things done, let's do it. And if people are torn on it and we're comfortable with where we're at, then totally fine. But every time I've visited other campuses, I seem to notice that all the
so
windows.
you notice every window is placed?
So
like-
there's 2 ways to do it. It's either every single window is numbered with the classroom, or if there's
On the
multiple-
outside or on the inside?
on the outside.
Okay. From the
Yeah,
exterior.
so it's
building.
geez, if there's an incident in 203, that's 203.
Mhm.
Or you label the first window and the last window in the classroom so that you know the windows between us, every single classroom.
See, but that's hard too, because it's like, all right, well, does it go evenly or does it go odd? Is it odd? Like,
Well, it'd be like 203, nothing,
Yeah.
203.
Oh,
So that
understood.
you know that they're all 203 and then the 205 would start after that.
yeah, I will definitely do my research and see what
Yeah.
other. It's easy enough to even travel to the surrounding towns and see what they do, so.
You should follow Studio G as well, because they're doing they're building these schools all the time,
Mhm.
so they have a security expert staff.
I mean, I think the reason why is it's the first responder gives from the outside, no matter who it is, they might have no knowledge of the interior
Mhm.
layout of the building. They know if there's an incident somewhere, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, first responders have their own lingo anyways.
Yeah.
Like, we show up to a building, we know it's either the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or Delta side, right? And just having those numbers on the outside for the doors, that's
Mhm.
most likely what we would utilize anyways to make entry.
Right.
And then obviously if there is an incident inside, usually school personnel knows what numbers,
Mhm.
what room number we need to go to. But I will look into it, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions? Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Just one comment, and that's not for you. I'm so impressed with the amount of training our resource officers receive on a daily basis. It's not one and done, there's a series of trainings every year. So I feel that's where as safe as we possibly can be with training our police department receives every year. So thank you for that. Yeah, we should really clap.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Cross District Professional Development Day, Director of Teaching and Learning, Elizabeth Steele, will provide an update on the November 4th, 2025 Cross District PD. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be presenting to you this evening about this, but I would like to acknowledge that I'm one of a team that really organizes this day. So on behalf of Natalie Proto and Julie Lord, I get to be the one to share all the good news. But our trio works throughout the entire year to plan and organize this day for our district, as well as the 2 neighboring districts that we collaborate with for this day. So our cross district PD this year We call it Lash Learns. For short, we've started just saying Lash. It's Littleton, Air Shirley, Harvard. And so instead of saying cross district PD, a lot of people just say, oh, Lash Day. And so it's kind of a nice transition that we've had just in title. This year was our 9th year offering this day between all 3 of our districts. We had about 330 educators participate, and we offered 40 workshops throughout the day. On the right, we have our flyer for the day, thanks to Paul Orzik, who creates the flyer. He's created it for the past several years. And I love, I think I've actually mentioned this before, I just give him the title of the day and just a little bit of information. And then I just say whatever comes to mind. And so it's always fascinating to me what he sends back. And sometimes I'm like, oh, this is great. It makes perfect sense. And other times I was like, wow, not like this one. I was not thinking kind of the newsy look when we mentioned the next generation, but I love the juxtaposition that he created with this. And so thanks to Paul for creating our flyer for us. On the next slide, you can see our structure, our agenda for the day. And so we have this big, huge hyperdoc that we use. Everything, all of our information is on there, which is why you see things that get linked and all of the information. Everyone goes to this one document that has this agenda at the top page. And you can see for the day 8 to 3, we have it broken down into several different sections. We've tried a few different formats. We have ended up sticking to about 3 kind of workshop-based sessions, and then one where we have our either department or grade level time people to gather together in their job-alike groups to have time to work with and talk with each other. This year we've done keynote speakers in the past, we've gotten away from keynote speakers. And so this year we decided to try a different approach where we did headliners. So we had 4 different headliners come in. And so it wasn't 1 keynote, it was 4. And so there were different topics. And so everyone was able to kind of pick one of the 4 headliners. That was their first workshop. And then during workshop 2, those 4 headliners remained and did either the same or a different workshop. And then we started to add in our educator workshops as well. So our teacher facilitated workshops during that session as well. And then in the afternoon, we had our 3rd workshop. And that is where it was just teacher-led, and educators from across the 3 districts were able to offer sessions as well as student-led workshops. And then ended the day together in our department time. And one thing that we added this year that you'll see kind of throughout that we received really nice feedback on, opposite of lunch, we had a WIN session, which we've talked about over the past couple of meetings. Actually, we've heard that term, WIN standing for what I need. And so we built in, just like for our students, we have WIN session during the day for students to be able to work on what they need. We've decided to put in a WIN session for our educators during the day, opposite of their lunch. And so we provided some broad ideas that they could run with, but also left it open for them to be able to do what they needed during that time. Because it is a kind of a jam-packed day. So it gave them a little bit of chunk of time to themselves to kind of reset and do what they needed to do throughout the day. And on the next, so the next 3 slides, we'll see the 3 different workshops, a few pictures from them, and what was offered during those workshops. And so workshop 1 was the headliners, the 4, we brought in 4 different consultants, 4 different areas of expertise to share with our educators. There was a lot of focus this year on AI, as you can well imagine, given all of the conversations and discussions around AI in education. There was also a heavy emphasis on mental health and mental wellness, which is reflective of then the other 2 kind of major headliners there, right? So we have 2 that are AI and tech based, and then 2 that were wellness based. And the entire day, while it's very open, there were clear pathways that staff could pick in those pathways should they choose to remain in like AI mindset all day or in a wellness set all day. So that was workshop 1. Workshop 2, we had our educators were leading in addition to the 4 headliners that we just saw. And here, if you look towards the bottom, the ones that have the asterisks are the ones that were offered by Littleton Public Schools educators. And so we always pride ourselves in the fact that our staff step up to the plate and offer workshops on this day and share their expertise. And it's always amazing to see what they're able to come up with. And people leave their workshops in particular with clear strategies and information that can be put into place the very next day. And then on the next slide, you will see again the third round of workshops, again, teacher-based and student-led. So last year was the first year we kind of did a trial run with a student-led workshop. It was offered by Sisters in Tech, which is a group that Julie Lord oversees of students at the high school that are very interested in STEM. And they last year did a presentation on Canva, and it was really, really well received by educators. And so when it came up again this year, that group said to Julie, absolutely, we want to participate again. We want to do AI. And so they did come and they led a session on AI. It's always very, very interesting when you have students that are educating the educators, right? They're sharing their expertise of how they could use that in their own hands and how it can interact with their classes in school. And so it's always helpful to have that student voice. Because last year we really got good feedback, we enjoyed having the student be part of the day. That's why we're here, right? Is for the students, is to have them participate in this day more. And so we were able to have a student panel as part of a workshop this year during this session of workshops. And what we did was we had Kristen McManus facilitated it. And there were 2 to 3 students from every district. They came together and they did a panel. And there were a couple of broad-based questions that they started off with, but they really shared their experience of their education, their K-12 education in the district. And it's interesting that they were able to answer the same questions, but in different ways or in similar ways. And so it was nice to hear their input with what we do on a daily basis. And so that is something that as we continue to move forward with this day, really keeping in mind, how can our students play a role in this day and how can and what can we learn from them? Because it is very significant, the capacity of what we can learn from them, I don't think we've really tapped yet. So that's the third workshop. The next slide, just to highlight a little bit more specifically, those 2 student-led workshops that we had, the student panel, as well as the student-led workshop of AI in our hands. You can see pictures of the Sisters in Tech in the top left. That's the whole group with Julie Lord working on their presentation and getting it all ready and together, which they were very excited about. And if Julie were here, she'd be getting even more animated and excited about. She really, really loves working with that group, as well as she works with another group in fixing technology. And our students are very, very capable. And Julie does a wonderful job letting them just go and do it and demonstrate their skills. And throughout the day, we try to have some fun. And so we have done bingo a handful of times. And so we wanted to incorporate bingo again. You see the board that we use there on the right. On the bottom right, that's covering the bingo board, one of the bingo slides is to put in a Mentimeter, which is just a platform where individuals can answer a question. It can create a word cloud. There's a lot of different things that Mentimeter can do. That is the capacity that we used it for on that day. And so you can see there the responses of some that participated in the bingo of just their one word overall of what they thought of the day. And so you can see the variety of responses that we got there. It's also just one quick dipstick of what did people think of the day in one word. I find it very interesting to see what words are chosen and why. And then on the left is the win block. So I had said we had provided some really big global view of a few ideas that educators could do. And you can see they're really broad, and that was intentional, just to kind of spark maybe a little bit of an idea and then allow educators to run with it. We did receive really great feedback of the win block. Actually, even before November 4th, I had been actually at the high school, and in conversation with a teacher, one of the teachers said to me, I love the schedule. I already know that I love the win block. Thank you for giving that to us. It's going to be incredibly helpful. And so just knowing that they had that time to slow down during the day. I think we've all been to workshops and full day conferences where it's just nonstop, go, 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 go. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted. And you're like, I have all these ideas, but now I'm back to trying to figure out a routine. How do I implement them? And so that was the opportunity to do that. And so we were happy to be able to work that in and hopefully moving forward, maintain either that exactly or some version of that moving forward. I would be remiss if we did not just have delicious looking food on our slide this evening. We hosted here in Littleton, and this was trial by fire for Aaron. And he was only a couple of weeks in. And my first conversation with him, he was like, so I hear there's like this big day coming up. And I was like, oh, welcome to Littleton. And so we pretty quickly, his turnaround time on this was pretty impressive. And so to have him host hundreds of educators coming through, special day, right? And I would say Aaron and the entire food services team really knocked it out of the park. Our team does a really amazing job and provides Scratch Kitchen, right? They do provide very fresh food and local, right? So they made sure that they got cider from a local farm, fruits and veggies from a local farm, just highlighting a variety of different, really local, freshly made, aware of allergies and allergens in the menu.
Ice cream from Kimball.
And yeah, ice cream from Kimball.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, they really do a top-notch job. And so it looked beautiful, it presented beautifully. They did a really wonderful job, and just a huge thank you to them for being able to provide that for not only Littleton, but our Air Shirley and Harvard counterparts on that day as well. Feedback for the day. We, at the end of the day, always have a survey go out, just asking general questions of what did you think? What did we learn? What can we use? And so I pulled a couple of quotes from the survey so that you could see it here. You can see a lot of concrete strategies, people walking away with concrete strategies that they can put into place the next day. That win time was highlighted in several people's responses, and a lot of collaboration time, which is the goal for the day. I think it's taken us a while to get to where we are, where now we're seeing the collaboration happen outside of just that November election day PD, where people are reaching out to each other and having follow-up conversations, working together, collaborating together. And that was one of the purposes of this day. And so it's nice that that has come to fruition, and hopefully will just continue to develop. And then in good fashion, AI was a major topic of the day. It continues to be a major topic in education. I threw all of our feedback into AI and said, summarize the information for me. And it did. And I had read, I went home and started looking at the feedback survey, because that was what I wanted, that evening after the day. I sat down and said, what did we think of the day, right? And so I started reading it and then put into AI, a week or so later. And it was interesting. AI is continually getting better and better, right? And the AI response was accurate as to what I read directly from people's responses. And so you'll see, again, information. This is really helpful for us when our team meets again, which we're meeting in a couple of weeks with our counterparts in the other districts, to review the day, reflect on the day, go through the survey. What did we like? What did we want to change? Anything of that sort, and be able to start planning for next year. Because it really does take a year for us to kind of get everything up and going and moving for the next year. I would say overall the day was a success. A major point of change for next year is to make sure that our secondary staff are eating lunch first and our elementary staff are eating lunch second, because that is more appropriate to their daily schedule. And if that is kind of a major point of contention that I hear, I'm happy with that. I take that as a win, and happily we will make sure that happens next year for the board schedule. So with that being said, because we hosted, it really is a big lift for our team, our maintenance crew. Several times having conversations with Fernando leading up to it. And every time he'd see me, he'd be like, is there any change, any update? And I would say, no, it's the same. And then, of course, like a day before, I was like, so Fernando, and we took it with grace. So huge thank you, Fernando and Jean were there all day for us, and the entire maintenance crew for making sure that all of the spaces were set up, the space is clean, the building is always very, very presentable. It's really wonderful. to be able to welcome people into our school. Our technology team was amazing throughout the entire day. They were supporting, running around from room to room to be able to provide that support. Our tech team also stayed the evening before to make sure that we were all set up for the day. So a huge thank you to all of them. And then of course to our food services who provided a lovely, as you saw, meal and provided everyone with that nourishment. So it was overall a really wonderful day for learning. Happy to take questions if you have.
Question or comment? Jeanine, you got anything?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Elaine?
Yeah, so it's interesting the way you were planning it, that it kind of fell into these two buckets of AI and mental wellness. Was that planned? Was that a stated theme and then teachers were coming up with workshops that were related to that? Or is that what the teachers were coming up with and then you saw it was kind of falling into those two buckets?
So when our team gets together, the 3 districts, we always say, what's going on in your district? What's happening? What's your planned professional development topics? What are your unplanned PD topics? What are the conversations that you're having? And so we start there and we find a lot of commonalities between our 3 districts. And so we try to come up with a general theme in that sense. And then we also use the feedback from the previous year to support what people wanted to see for moving forward. And then we also send out another survey. So when we start in the springtime, our group kind of starts meeting like every other week or so. We put out another survey to all of our educators saying, okay, we're starting the planning process. What do you want? What's on your mind? Are you willing to offer a session? What would it be on? And so then we're starting to kind of gather the information there too, and we're starting to see the commonalities there. And so that's when we say, okay, here's kind of our major themes that we're going with. That's how we picked our headliners. And then when the teachers put in for workshops, we really welcome any workshop that staff wants to put in. But because we've done our legwork, a lot of times it falls within kind of the general theme of the day. But that's not to say that if a teacher has some other idea that we would say no to it, because that's the idea of the day, right? Bring something to the table, share it with others. And so because of the way that we do the day, a lot of times we are on for what we're hoping it to be.
Sounds like the perfect mix of grassroots and district led, because, obviously we want this to also meet district goals and initiatives,
Right.
Things that are, we're hoping that all teachers will move forward with AI and mental wellness. So but how wonderful to be able to do that with also honoring teachers' voices.
Yeah.
So thank you for all those nuances. That's very skillful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great job.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you included students.
Yeah.
That's just a great way to broaden them and get their exposure.
Yeah, exactly. It's always, I think, it's a piece that we really need to make sure is at the table. And I'm glad that we've been able to incorporate it. And hopefully, right, last year we had 1, this year we had 2. Hopefully next year we have at least 3, right? Continue building that upon that.
Any experience as a student standing in front of a group and presenting is gold.
Exactly. Yes, I agree.
Great job. I think it's a big lift to have it in district, but I also think it's a lot of fun, right? We get the squeaky clean school and great food and great workshops. So job well done. Do you think that this will just continue indefinitely with Air Shirley and Harvard? I mean, all 3 districts seem to be like, this is gold. Let's just continue with this forever.
For the near future, I would say yes. I think we've had conversations of different structures of it, right? And so there are certain times where there have been certain years in the past where a certain district has said, you know what, I can't have elementary come because they're doing this other thing that they have to focus on. And so we've been flexible with each other as to if people need to have a certain subgroup of their district missing. But we've also gotten to a point where everyone sees the benefit when everyone is there. And so, yes, I would say that intention was created by 3 superintendents 9 years ago, one of whom has already retired, and pretty soon we're gonna be seeing a changeover in that. But I think it's an established practice that I do not foresee changing at any point too soon. What I would potentially see is conversations of, does it make sense? Is there another district that maybe wants to join us, right? But I think we have to be cautious that we have to make sure that we can hold it, right? And the key of the day is being able to really cross and have elementary, see secondary, have conversations with secondary, also have conversations across their grade level, right? So there is something to be said for keeping it a reasonable size, for the sake of our teachers being able to communicate and meet and continue conversations outside of just that day as well. That was a really long-winded way of saying
Yes.
that, yes.
But I had another question, you kind of alluded to it, so, attendance wise, do we feel like this is well attended? I mean, I'm mostly concerned about our staff, but would be curious if the attendance varies district to district, but do we have like greater than 95% of staff participating in this?
So it varies year to year.
Mhm.
And so it is a full day of PD where there are some years where staff life happens and it's a day that staff have to take. And there are other years where our attendance is really great with it. And so it does kind of vary in that sense. And I say that because it is a day, as an educator, if you don't have to create sub-plans, it's easier to just say, okay, I have to do these doctor's appointments, I'm gonna schedule it this day and get them done, right? And sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that we're creating a day that is inspiring to try and ensure that people are in attendance and coming. It is a conversation that we have, it is a conversation that we have within district, it is a conversation that we have with the other districts as well. So that way, all 3 districts are saying, oh, attendance this year is looking like this, how does it look for you? And what I will say is that we are comparable across the districts,
Okay.
with regards to our attendance rates on the day. And so that is a good sign that there's not one district that's specifically super low in attendance and others are really high, because then that would be concerning as
Sure.
to moving forward.
And then do we have any subgroups in Littleton that maybe don't participate in this cross district and they do their own independent thing?
Yes,
Like service providers or
nurses, for example.
nurses?
So our nurses for several years now have done something that's very specific within their field, usually offered by either Northeastern or Boston Children's. They'll attend virtually, and that's across all 3 districts. We've made that agreement.
Okay.
What's interesting is over the past 9 years, a lot of professional organizations have decided to start offering their own day of PD on this day. And so, for example, Mayford, which is the our health and wellness, like our physical education professional organization, they've started holding, it's always a Monday, Tuesday this week of November that they do. And so our 3 districts always have a conversation. We always ensure that we're in agreement. And what we have come to agree to is that 2 members from the department can go to that professional organization's professional development day.
Yep.
With the intention of those that go are then coming back and teaching the rest of their department that is participating in this day. And so really it's the best of both worlds, right? They get to have their professional organization targeted in their content area, bring that back to their department, but they also get, here's what happened within district, what's moving forward here, and bring that to those that went to the other.
Good. Thank you.
Right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Next up. Third presentation of the evening is a review and discussion of school district rankings. School committee member Shauna Hearn will discuss with the committee the Massachusetts school district rankings. The agenda items are always so repetitive. I feel silly saying that, but.
For the record.
Oh, we better
It's for the public record. So thank you, Sean, for putting this information together and sharing it with us.
Yeah, no problem. Again, I don't think that school rankings should be taken as gospel. I just think it's an interesting data point that we can kind of take from that, what we will. And I'd also like to say, as you can see in the rankings, right, we started out there at 4. That was done over a period of years of hard work to get there in the first place. It did slope off this year a little bit. If you move on to the next slide. The thing that I was trying to look at, right, and this is based off of the Boston Globe magazine, which again, if there's any issues with the data, feel free to call it out. I know, it's not always 100% accurate, but I looked across the years and said, okay, what do we have for percentage of efficiency? And then what does that equal to when we look at all the high schools in the state, right? So basically just did a rank formula on that. And we've historically done quite well. It's only been recent years that it's slowed a little bit. Again, I think that we're still on the 70th percentile, like or above. We're still doing quite well. We just wanted to raise that. If you keep moving along, kind of just the same trend, not to harp on it. And then one more slide, kind of the same thing. There's no data, at least that I could find for 2022. Again, we've been a great district for a long time. Just want to call it out. And then the SAT scores. So the SAT scores are the same situation. Now, there's a couple of things I want to call out. Obviously, we discussed this at prior meetings. Is MCAS is no longer a graduation requirement. So it's a question of how serious some students are taking this. Additionally, the trend started prior to COVID, but now about 80% of colleges and universities no longer, or at least have test optional for SATs. So there's less of a focus for students as well, which may contribute if you keep. This is one thing I did want to call out, right? Is that AP proficiency went up. So that tells me, this is based on limited data set, that although overall we're slightly down, our best students are recovering well from the COVID years. I think that's COVID is a clear commonality with this period of time. And so I just wanted to call out kind of what I'm seeing with trends. I think also, I know Elaine's going to probably speak to this later, but mental health aspect of that time period and working towards that. I know there's been presentations about the efforts that different school principals are taking towards that, which is great. I would say that my background is in data analysis, which is why you're saying this presentation with me. I know that there's some vocal survey data with views of climate and learning that I'd be curious about seeing. And kind of digging into a little bit more as an outtake from MCAS. Again, I think that although maybe their importance has been viewed a little bit differently, the MCAS is still a really good tool for districts and people to look at how we're doing as far as performance. And so I think that looking at that survey data, as well as I would be curious about informing parents the importance of still taking the MCAS seriously, still taking SAT seriously, and kind of that piece would be good. I also would be curious about maybe a survey out to students students' parents that the students are in AP classes, right? Clearly, again, our top students are really still doing really well. They're bouncing back at a little higher rate than our average student. Maybe there's something to be learned that way. Again, I present this just to really start a conversation. Again, I think that the district has done a terrific job historically, which is again why you're starting off at a high level. This is an interesting piece, right? I think it contributed to the change in why we moved down a little bit, is that educator evaluations was removed, from what I can tell, from the Boston Magazine evaluations. It was brought to my attention that Lincoln Sudbury saw that they had an issue with the way that was handled last year, and so they ended up pulling it. Historically, you can see how well our teachers are rated. They're far and away some of the top teachers evaluations in the state. And so you take that out of the equation, which can be a key piece. I think that also factored in to what we're seeing. So again, key takeaways are that the change in using educator evaluations is negatively impacting us because of how well we've done with that historically, and I'm sure we still are. I'd say that with the MCAS and SAT scores, they are moving in a negative direction. I think there's some mitigating factors that I think are worth looking into with, no longer being a graduation requirement and the SATs being less utilized by colleges. And I think the important thing to remember is that the AP tests are going really well. So what we can look at. So I bring this up again just to kind of bring it to the committee and see if anyone had thoughts. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks, Sean.
One thing, Sean, sorry.
Please.
I just noticed it now, and I think what happened here is the 2025 results that you have are the 2024.
Oh, was it slid by?
And the 2025 have been posted recently. I can't
Right.
remember when. Is that correct, John?
Yes, we reported that we went up actually this past year, 2025. So rather than like say one of them was 66%, that was sure for two subjects, that was last year. But the
Okay.
previous year, we were 75% meeting or exceeding expectations in ELA. This in spring of 2025, 75% meeting expectations in math. And in science, we were 83% meeting or exceeding expectations. So that trend line, we pointed this out last, at a previous school committee presentation, actually goes up. But we were aware, and Justin, to his credit, has acknowledged that in different years, prior years, noticing the line going down for MCAS. So that each, 25 is 24, 24 is 23. So just so you know, and you were curious about, and that's what the Boston magazines are relying on. I guess they're looking at the previous year.
That makes sense.
And you noticed that there was a year where there was no result.
Yeah.
That was during COVID. There was 2 years, 2020 and 2021, where students did not take a science MCAS.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sean, were you able to find out what metrics they were using to determine the district ranking?
They go for all district.
Yeah,
So these are the components, right? So it was a combination of MCAS, ratio, teacher ratio. It was class, exactly, AP proficiency, again, by subject matter, not for AP, but for the MCAS and then for the SATs. They make note of household income and the cost of the housing bedroom that factors in. I think that's just as a mark to see how well the school is doing based on kind of resources, which we always do very well with, right? Compared to how affluent our town is, we always succeed compared to our kind of our
and then when they took out the educator evaluation scores,
yeah,
that
because we were
that
doing
affected
so
our
well
ranking,
with it,
right?
yeah, because we're doing so well with it, right? We were, 1, 2, whatever. When they took that out, it negatively impacted us by nature, right? And if it's something that's going to be above where you are sitting in the ranking, it's going to put you back down, take it out.
That's a lot of drop.
Yeah.
Or like one element.
I don't think it's all that element, right? I think,
No, but
yeah,
right. it does make me.
Yeah, I wanted to at least give credit to the district for what it's done, but yeah.
I mean, you have to remember each grade is a different cohort, and it's not uncommon to have dips and rises because we're dealing with 110 to 130 students. Also need to take into account, even though we added a number of students that we used to send out of district into our district, our results have remained solid. So I mean, there's so many variables to look at. But no matter, even in a population of 1,000, 1,500, you're going to see dips in scores. It's amazing how grades have some consistency beyond the district level. Not easy to explain, but I've seen that for many years. Maybe a grade 5 class, and you follow the grade 5 class until graduation, and you see improvements in growth, but it still is below the class or the grade, more correctly, before it and after it. These patterns exist. What we said at our MCAS meeting, which is really important, is the SPG, student percentile growth, is really important because that really, for me as a superintendent, indicates that our students are moving ahead. They're learning. That is so important.
So a question that I have about the impact of removing educator evaluation on our high school ranking makes me wonder how often do teachers get an exemplary rating? How difficult is it in this district? How frequently does it happen?
Well, it depends on the composition of our staff and the longevity that our staff have been with us. And it also depends on your philosophy.
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. What is the
Yeah.
philosophy?
Well, the
Because
philosophy
it-
here is simply, if we give an exemplary as well earned, and our philosophy in this district, if you have an evaluation measure that's not attainable, it should be on there.
Well, I can just share that in the districts I've worked in, meeting, it's considered that the standards on the teacher rubric are rigorous. And that if you're meeting those standards at the proficient level, that's already a very high bar.
Mhm.
And that it's very rare for a teacher to get an exemplary rating, that would be, for example, the kind of teacher that would be such a rock star that you would be bringing other teachers to their classroom to observe their practice.
It's
It's
very,
in my experience, it's been very rare. So
we have.
if we have a higher proportion of our teachers getting exemplary, and then all of a sudden that's removed from the ranking formula, I can see how that would cause a large drop.
Perhaps, it depends on how it was weighted, and I think these are weighted measures, I don't think they're equal measures, so that's what I don't know.
Yeah, I tried to reach out to get a deeper understanding of the formula, I didn't get it.
I would imagine it's they are weighted.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Can I just, while I appreciate this coming to our attention, I've had in another life at another place, there was an intense discussion about a report in mainstream media, very much like this. And those who had been in education for years and years did not really put a lot of weight, mostly because often mainstream media like this has other agenda. I don't know that it does, but after listening to the conversation, it was like, please don't get wound up about this. It's in mainstream media. I mean, it's in, you know, a magazine that is selling ads to, and it's not really a scholarly examination.
I mean, it does use metrics, but, I mean, one thing that has bothered me for years is there's been such a push on dual enrollment college classes, yet that's not considered, right? And yet they keep an AP rank. And an A, you know, the history of AP courses is really quite interesting. And when education became available to all, which it should have long before it did, there was a political force that said, well, we're dumbing down our curriculum, so we're gonna create AP exams. And since that inception, I think it was the 50s or early 50s, it still, you know, is a metric that's used by a lot of agencies. What they fail to realize that dual enrollment courses are equivalent to AP courses, and they're actually at the college level. And yet it takes so much time to change that mindset in people that determine metrics for ratings. So that's one thing that I've noticed for years and keep questioning. At what point in time are you going to consider dual enrollment, right? Most high schools in most states are offering dual enrollment courses. And the research is clear. If a student has at least one college course in high school, the chances of graduation increase substantially, and the chance of finishing on time with your peers increases substantially. But yet this metric isn't incorporated into any rankings that I've seen at this point in time. So
No, it's the feedback I was looking for. Again, I don't take this as gospel. I kind of take it as, what are we looking at? What, like I said, last year, Wicked Sudbury reached out and said they didn't think something was fair. So let's evaluate what's going on so that we're getting treated correctly. To your point, I agree, you know, media can make different decisions. I do know that their numbers are run by a Babson professor, so there is some data integrity to it. But again, choosing what you value in the formula is always going to be kind of that. So thank you guys.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No, don't leave yet.
Okay, sorry. Great, see you.
So I applaud your efforts in bringing this information for us, because I can remember being here celebrating, you know, 4, 10, 6, and 7. So I think it's only fair that we revisit this topic when the numbers drop, right? Otherwise, we're sort of kidding ourselves. So we, we gave ourselves a big round of applause when the information looks good, and we'd be doing ourselves a disservice, or we'd be kidding ourselves to say all of a sudden, geez, these numbers don't matter now that we're 43. I do recognize that the
Educator evaluations.
yeah, the educator evaluation certainly played an impact in that. I remember looking at some data previously, as it relates to your question. And to me, it did seem like we scored well in that area, and I can understand Lincoln Sudbury's gripe. It's like a self-assessment of your teaching staff.
Right.
Point of clarification before. So I think and again, this is Boston Magazine's, top school district. I don't even think it's statewide. I think it was like the Metro West or the 495 bubble or
Inside
something like
495.
yeah.
Yep. You got it.
Something like that. It's fun to celebrate this when we're a high rank, but I'll tell you, people do care about this. This is what drives property value and drives, along with the assessed value and the taxes and all that good stuff. But this is what also helps the school district move forward. So folks that are interested in high quality education are then seeking Littleton, moving into Littleton, and it helps us move forward. So to see a drop here is a little disheartening. I think some of it has to do with the educator evaluation piece. Obviously, a lot has to do with the MCAS and the SAT scores. In terms of MCAS, it's level playing field. Like, it didn't matter for anybody.
Right.
So the fact that, we did score as well, other districts could be saying the same thing. I never want to be accused of teaching to the test or anything like that. But the reality is, for anyone who's listening, these things matter. In terms of the MCAS, the SAT scores, you got to be crazy if you're just voluntarily taking the SAT. That obviously matters to that student, right? They've paid a fee to take the SAT. They're using it as part of their college application. I'm fairly certain that best efforts go into those. And the trend as presented this evening doesn't look good. But what I think we're seeing is like Boston Magazine's 2025 rank is based upon our 2024 score results.
That's
Is
right.
that what we've come to the conclusion?
Yes.
Some kids.
Yes, for MCAS and possibly for SATs as well, since they might roll this information out in the fall and they're using the spring data.
Right.
That's
I
accurate.
think that you can access the SAT scores through the DESI profile. I think they probably do that. And DESI, I think, when they reported based on the year it was taken. Whereas when we report SAT scores to colleges and stuff, we do a composite score, which is college admissions are going to recognize it, where we post the student's best score of multiple opportunities. On our school profile, we pick the best scores and report that for that student. We compile it all together, so it's a composite score, which is a very common thing for high schools to do, to show how their students ultimately performed. What was their best performance, and then average together. But I'm not sure if DESI just takes they somehow get the data from the college board and show it from that school year or from that year. It's a calendar year. I believe it's probably a school year, and then they just take, here's how the kids scored that year. And, it might not be the best score for that kid at Littleton High School or whatever school, it could be a neighboring school. So there were also other things. I just looked at the Boston Magazine. I don't know what the weights were, but there were graduation rates counted into this. We do fairly well with that. Access to the arts, access to digital literacy and computer science courses. I'm not sure if that will continue to stay in there. If you'll be a strong emphasis on AI school. There was a huge push for a lot of schools to have computer science courses years ago, and they have a lot of offerings. That's not something that we particularly offer that right now, and then online in virtual high school. Advanced coursework completion, obviously we cited that. And then, I don't think they factored this into the metric, but they did publish the median income of the towns, the median home price.
Yeah.
But based on just the metrics for schools, I think as a high school principal, I would want to look at what we're doing with SATs. We do not teach the SAT. We don't have a test prep program. Years ago, when I first came here, the SAT scores were not at all where they are right this past year. And we knew we needed to do something about that, so we brought in, partnered with the PTA, we did an SAT boot camp. There has been a resurgence in the SAT after there are a lot more test optional schools, but some of the more selective, especially the more selective schools, have reinstituted the SAT as a requirement for admission. You have to take it or you score. So we have to recognize that too and see what we're doing for SAT prep for our students. So I had a conversation with our, one of the members of the guidance department before this meeting. He was talking about what we can specifically do about helping kids prepare for the SAT. A lot of our students, parents are, especially the highest achievers, they invest in test prep courses on their own. They can be quite expensive. We recognize that well over 15 years ago, and we invested in it with PTA support, and we advertised this and helped subsidize that course prep. So I think it might be a time for us to revisit that and make sure we offer it on campus for students who might not, have an interest or might be thinking, oh, I don't need to take it. There will be a lot of kids who won't take the SATs because the school they're applying to test optional.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine choice for that family. But I do think we need to look at maybe what we can do there. MCAS, we've already reported extensively on that, where we're at with that, what we need to do. And certainly having you made the point, but Dale said is having the students take it seriously.
Yeah.
Even though it's not a graduation requirement, isn't. So it'll be interesting with Boston Magazine and other similar publications used for their metrics in preparing school districts in the future, whether they'll continue to use MCAS or not. We've always recognized since the advent of MCAS that it's closely tied to socioeconomic status. You look at the towns, and Littleton's socioeconomic status has improved quite a bit, in the last 20 years. And you can see it based on the incomes that published in the magazine. But all the top performing schools are high SES schools for sure. And there is a lot of resources, and I'm appreciative of that. I don't want to carry on too much, but I just want to recognize that this is something we want to pay attention to. I think you said it well. I appreciate Chairman's comments about that. It does matter when it's publications. Realtors do use this. They were, I would have when I go to Rotary meetings and I'd have the realtors that always be, singing the praises of my school for the fine performance in the rankings. And we said we use those rankings when we have families when we're looking at towns.
Sure.
So we have been here before, though. I will say historically, since I have a fairly long tenure here, we have slid before in the rankings, and they changed the metrics on different years. Some years Boston Magazine would just publish a report for their ranked districts. So that, and then they would give the year off from school, preparing high schools. But I think they've really latched on to ranking high schools. So we have slid before when we were high, and we brought it back up. So with that, I could say that there could be some confidence that we want to do better in the rankings. I acknowledge that, Lane, you talked about, we probably have to look at it. We have discussed recalibrating the teacher evaluation rubric. There could have been some generosity perhaps given during the COVID years and things like that.
Well, the problem is it's hard to take that away once you've given it,
But it looks like that's not a rate, and that it is a self-report thing.
Right.
That metric could be manipulated by schools if they wanted to, I guess it would just kind of make everybody exemplary or something. Like
right,
that.
because it is a self-evaluation. And
Yeah, so we have to be careful
Yeah.
of that. I think we've discussed that actually. I think it had been council at one point of just recalibrating, making sure that proficient is the goal, and be proud of the fact that you scored proficient. And you're a model teacher who can, for other teachers, as you said, I just wanted to acknowledge your point there. But yeah, so I think I touched upon every metric at this point, but it's fair criticism. We have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we're not where we want to be this year in the rankings, although because we loved it when we were up there in the top 10.
Right.
Of course.
And it's, we were there for 4 years or potentially before, and dips happen and we can readjust and the metrics change and it's just the way things work. So there's like, I'm not hitting panic alarm by any stretch of imagination. But I also want to say, like, not on our watch is the trend gonna go down and stay down, okay? So
Agreed.
the goal would be to bring this back up. I think that I don't even know when this report rolls out, but I think that
August, September, yeah.
so perhaps the next time this rolls out, they'll have the data on the bounce back of our MCAS scores, and we might see ourselves go up. I don't know. I've also seen these metrics include things like diversity within the community and extracurricular offerings. So I think we do really well with our extracurricular offerings, and that gets included, right, for the size district we are. Diversity is obviously a tough thing to control. But you know, in summary, I welcome presentations like this because it feels really good when we're in the top 10. And then we should pause and take a time out and look at why we dropped. And is it something we want to address, or is it just noise? Is it just media noise? And it's really nothing for us to pay attention to. We've got our strategic plan. Let's continue to operate on that. Or are there some things that we can do that really matter to the community to try to score better? So
And we would go with, it's something we need to look at and see if there's anything that we're missing. It's a trend. Trends are important. We can debate the validity of the trend, but the bottom line is there was a downturn and it's something we need to look at. It could be composition of the grade. We've seen these things happen before, but my expectation as a superintendent, that trend goes up. Right? It already has with the 2025 results, but it's motivation as far as I'm concerned as well. I mean, I don't think any of our staff feel good when the curve or when the line goes the wrong way.
great. Thank you, Sean.
Sean.
Thank you, Scott.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Sean. Well done.
We'll give you a round of applause. All right, our fourth presentation this evening is the MASC 2025 Fall Conference Update. Justin McCarthy, Elaine Sandelman, and Jean Wood will give an update on the 2025 Fall Conference that we just got back from, and lots of information. So I think Elaine's going to kick this off, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I could
Good
go
slides.
first or last or whatever you prefer. I do have slides.
Yeah, so why don't you kick this off, walk us through your slides. You can do it from the podium if you like.
Yeah.
And Jeanine and I would like to share a couple remarks on our
Experience.
our experience as well.
Okay, that's not my first. There's two slides before that,
Well,
or maybe,
MASC Mass Joint is the first slide.
and then go back.
That's all I know.
Oh, all right. Okay, I had a couple slides ahead of that, but,
All I know.
And one was the title.
So, do you want to borrow this and speak to it? or-
Yeah, that would help.
all right, so you have it in your packet, but
Let's go back.
I just wanted to start off thanking the district for sending us to the conference. It's so beneficial every year. You've been getting more and more members to come with me. The first year I went alone, and then the next year Justin came with me, and then this year Jeanine joined us. So to me, the objectives of going to the conference are to learn about innovative practices that are happening in other districts, to observe some models of superintendents and school committees collaborating together, and also to network and connect with representatives from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. So I always learn so much at these sessions, and I did want to put some slides together. Computer back to you now.
Perfect.
So I went to a lot of sessions, but I went to 3 that were on the same topic, which was mental wellness. And they were all talking about integrating it with MTSS. So we're trying not to speak in acronyms. So MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support. So you can actually see it on that pyramid there. So I hope I'm saying this right, Lynn. So the bottom tier, tier one is what everybody gets. Tier two, here it's in yellow, are for, it's a higher level of support for students who need it. Tier one is more specialized support. Am I saying that right? Okay, so what was notable about these sessions at the conference was that the districts that we're talking about it were integrating mental health, mental wellness into the MTSS framework. So it was interesting. The 3 presentations I went to on this topic were all kind of hitting the same notes. I'm sharing the slides from what I thought were the best slides. So I contacted Armin Pyers. I don't know if you know him in Medway. He's the superintendent there, and I reached out to him after the conference and asked if he would share his slides, which he did. And so I'm sharing this sort of as a point of discussion. It's weird sharing somebody else's slides. I didn't make these, but I selected ones that I was hoping would spark some interest, some conversation. I'd like to learn where we are as a district in comparison to what's going on in Medway, which from my very brief survey at the conference, they seem to be sort of the exemplar of districts that are integrating mental wellness into the MTSS model. So I'd like to share how they did it, and then, hopefully spark a conversation about where we're at here in Littleton and what ideas we may want to incorporate from some of these other districts. So Steve, if you could go to this doesn't, oh, there it is working. Thank you. So this is a video I'd like to share.
Something is wrong with you, it feels like the end of the world is going to happen. So knowing that I can go to a judgment-free zone and just let it happen it's important to me.
Knowing that there's going to be like a whole support system basically of people kind of just like calms my worries. And I feel like a lot of the support here has helped.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
Well, let me just frame
When
this
you're
before we give it
In
another
middle
try.
school,
So these are 4 middle school students in Medway, speaking to their experience once these supports have been put in place. So what their lives are like now, having their emotional and mental health needs met within the school system. So yeah, try it again and see if it works.
free zone and just let it happen. When you're in middle school, when you feel like something is wrong with you, it feels like the end of the world is going to happen. So knowing that I can have the support, I can go to a judgment-free zone and just let it happen it's important to me.
Knowing that there's going to be like a whole support system basically of people kind of just like calms my worries. And I feel like a lot of the support here has helped me grow so much, and it's done that for so many other students too, which I think is incredible.
Through all the years, I've never felt like I've stopped being supported. It's always been there. Like I'm walking down the hall, I see Miss Yim, she says hi, and I can just feel like I belong here. Like I have someone who cares about me in this school. And that feeling has never changed.
Thanks for your persistence in getting that to work, Steve. So if you can go back to the slide deck. Okay, so this was the goals of this particular session were to recognize the district's expanded responsibility for coordinating mental health services and understanding this modernized vision of MTSS.
You're working.
No, Maybe I'll have you advance this. I think you're on their slide deck and not mine. If you can
Yeah.
get out of the video and go back to the slide deck that I shared. Yeah, that's their slide deck. I'm sorry.
Do I use my computer?
Well, you can, are you logged in?
Fine.
To the meeting?
Yeah, well, not to the meeting, but
No, I,
Yeah.
you should be able to,
let me,
that won't.
all right, so where do you want to go to?
Yeah, I just really want to show them these graphs. Yeah,
Is it
That one?
the youth mental health crisis?
That one?
for the public.
So youth mental health crisis? That's slide here.
Yeah, hold on. Sorry, thought I had this all set.
Yeah, it's, youth mental health crisis. It's a bar graph. It should be right after that.
Put the packet at the top.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there.
That's
There you
it.
go. There you go.
Excellent, thank you. So, yes. Well, it was worth it because I feel like
Oh, the disconnect.
this graph is really important because we pay so much attention to the mental health crisis as it relates to the COVID pandemic. But what this graph shows is that there was a crisis before the pandemic. You know, this starts in 2013, and we could see that there were higher incidents of feelings of sadness and hopelessness, suicide ideation, and that continued to increase through the pandemic and then continued at a high level after the pandemic. Yeah.
On the left, so 20, 40, 60, is this?
Yeah,
number
I
per
wish I knew.
100, I mean, number per 1,000?
Yeah, I wondered that too. So this is what's weird about presenting somebody else's slides. If I had made them, I would know. But I think what was notable is just the trends.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I had the same question when I looked at it.
It's just like
Right.
data person,
I know.
trends don't like.
So, could you go to the next slide, Steve? So this is looking at it another way. This incorporates middle school students as well as high school students. We're seeing the same trend starting in 2011, going this ends at 2021. So that's like right in the middle of the pandemic. But the point is you can see that a crisis was developing before the pandemic. So in some ways, it seems like our attention on the pandemic kind of took our eyes off the ball of what was really happening under our noses. So next slide, please. And then we had talked a couple meetings ago about chronic absenteeism, and this shows the impact of mental health on that problem. So we can see, obviously, during the pandemic, there was a larger problem with chronic absenteeism. That was when we were in remote learning. And but even in 2022, it hasn't gone back down to where we would want it to be. So one of the points that was being made in this session is the correlation between the mental crisis and chronic absenteeism. Next slide, please, Steve. So another point that they made was, we've got students that need mental health services. They're all going to need them after school. So that puts a huge burden on the providers in the community to all be meeting the needs of these students after school. To meet the current needs, it would take 47 child psychiatrists per 100,000 children. And currently, the United States only has 9.75 child psychiatrists for that cohort. So that's also indicating that we've got a crisis and that we don't have the providers to meet the crisis. Next slide, please. So And here's the ultimate referral bottleneck. We've got schools referring to these providers. We've got pediatricians referring to the providers, caretakers also. And then, with the after school and weekend counseling appointments are just not sufficient to meet that demand. So what this is leading up to, next slide, is considering providing more of these supports in school. I hesitate. I've got another video that explains.
Let me try it
this.
here.
Okay.
Shift in responsibility. Schools and districts make it their direct responsibility to actively coordinate and provide support services that occur outside the traditional school setting. Tier 4 accepts that only schools can do this comprehensively. And in some cases, it brings external resources into the schools, even during school hours. By ensuring timely, comprehensive support for students with intense needs, schools are no longer subject to a failure point when an outside-of-school provider cannot be located, or the length of time before intensive support begins is weeks or months. When schools take on a Tier 4 level of responsibility, districts increase their control over the type and quality of support for students who previously were left to a system that is challenged and overwhelmed. Here are the 4 core components of a 4th tier of supports. 1. Teletherapy. 2. Care coordination. 3. In-school outpatient therapy. And 4. Wraparound services.
Okay, that's the end of that. Okay, perfect. So next slide. So all I know about what we do here in Littleton is what I saw on the website. So I'm sure Lynn would have much more to share with us at a later date. But what I saw on the website is that we do use Care Solace for care coordination. So we do have that component of this Tier 4 core component. At the conference, when I went to these sessions, there were a lot of discussions in the Q&A at the end of the sessions. A lot of the districts were talking about using Cartwheel for teletherapy and for wraparound support. So, and they happened to be at the exhibit hall. I don't know if you guys visited them, but so we do have some of these systems in place, but what struck me in Medway was the degree to which they are really dedicating themselves to providing these services for students. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So in Medway, so Medway is a little bigger than, we're about 10,000 population, they're about 13,000, but I think demographically there's some similarities. But what they did was hire a clinical supervisor. So this was someone at the PhD level that they've had come in 10 years ago. So that tells you how long it takes to put this whole integrated system in place. But he is just working on the mental health component. He's hired a licensed social worker that does in-home therapy. They've hired a therapeutic mentor that works directly with students in the home and in the community, and a parent coach that works with parents as a peer with a lived experience. So those are 3 staff positions that they've put in Medway. And this is why I was saying, it seems to me like this is like an exemplary model. This is hard to build up over a short period of time, but the successes that they were reporting were really notable. So if you can go to the next slide. One of the things that they were noticing is that their counselors were spending a lot less time on referrals to outpatient providers. This is, we can hear later from, what our experience here is in Littleton, but in Medway, the counselors there were spending an overwhelming amount of their time trying to line up outpatient support for students who were struggling. And now that they had these in district supports, the counselors were spending much, much less time on that and more time actually working with students. The other point that they were making, that slide where it says 4%. So the data is showing that even if you do line up outpatient supports, that only 4% of the students attend 6 or more appointments, meaning that they just give up after a short period of time. Whereas when they were getting the supports in district, they had an 84% success rate, which is pretty notable. Next slide. So the outcomes were affected attendance, it affected academics, and it had a financial impact as well. So quickly to the next one. So they noticed this impact on their chronic absenteeism that through these 4 different implementations, they had 71% of their students improved or maintained their attendance. Next slide. This is another graphic showing a similar thing, just breaking it down by grade span. Next slide. And then, well, so my concern when I was hearing about this, if students are being pulled out of class to get mental health supports, what does that do to their academics? But they were finding that 76% of the students improved or maintained their GPA. Next slide. So there was also, there's always a school committee member that's in these presentations because it's showing collaboration between school committees and superintendents and other district personnel. So school committee rep got up and spoke to it, and what their role is in all of this, which is really advocating for funding and resources. So, if we want to start talking about moving in this direction, obviously there's financial implications. We'd have to talk about, what this means for our budget. One point that they did make is that they were seeing a reduction in the out-of-district placements, which are very costly. So if with fewer out-of-district placements, which can be like $100,000 a year, that would pay for part of this programming. Next slide. So in Medway, the way they got support for this was really a campaign to educate parents, families, community about the value of doing this. It is a departure from past practice, so it would take, well, we know how to do yes campaigns, don't we? But this would. I'm sharing this with you just to start a conversation. I am not suggesting that this is what Littleton is ready for, but it was so powerful to see what can happen if a district takes on this mental health responsibility for its students instead of relying on it all to happen outpatient. So there's some additional slides. I'm not going to go through these, but I just wanted them in the packet so that you could see them. This was another presentation on a similar topic, but there's a few slides in there that are related to the Massachusetts Partnership for Youth, which I saw on the website. We have a partnership with them. So I picked up a bunch of brochures and stuff that I'll share with you. So anyway, just I'll close there because this has already gone on a long time, but just wanted to hear what other folks on the school committee think about this. And if, I'd love to hear more from the district about what we're currently doing and what our philosophy is for supporting kids in school. Yeah.
So I love the concept, but I'm sorry, I can't sync something up. In the beginning, you talk about how we have a national crisis of number of mental health professionals, especially those who are in the pediatric specialty, which is very important, is from what I understand. So if schools want to, even if we want to go out and bring in mental health professionals, how do we, there aren't enough. So I'm like, I'm glad Medway was able to do this, but and I'm sure you work hard, you can find them, but I'm just kind of like, but there aren't enough. But so go get some. And it's like,
well, they would need they hired a clinical supervisor who was doing counseling, and then also the counselors that they had were spending less time booking outpatient appointments and spending more time working with students. And then they had those 3 other staff members that they hired. So they were able to make it work. I think the idea is that you're hiring people that are dedicated just to the district and not to the entire geographic area around where
There are a couple of
practice
things, Janine, and I appreciate you saying that. We do some of this now, but I spent 3 years as a chairman of an intersectoral committee, very large area, and my job as chair was to bring justice, social services, and healthcare and education under one umbrella, focusing on wraparound services for at-risk families. I have a lot of experience in one of the challenges that Janine has mentioned is real. I was fortunate at that time to be able to convince these agencies to provide services to the students and families at various schools. But they had the staff to do this. And what's different now is because the problem has grown significantly. In order for a model like this to work, we need more people trained in those areas. And the model that I actually helped create brought in agencies and assigned people to various schools so that we had consistency and wraparound services. But you need the numbers of people to do that. I mean, for example, social services, it frustrates me that this is the model. You don't know who you're going to get when you call social services. And that's through no fault of theirs. But the model we created when I was on this committee was that we have X number of social workers assigned to our district.
Yeah.
And they can build relationships with families. And that's when wraparound really starts to work. So I'm 100% on board with this concept. It's just that there needs to be a transformation within the state in terms of how our services are offered. And plus we need more people that have these qualifications to make this work. And it's a phenomenal model, and as you witnessed in Medway, but I think Medway is really unique in being able to make this happen. And when we do our presentation, you'll see that we've done a bit of this. And I had conversations about bringing in a psychiatrist and offering services after the end of the school day and using healthcare plans. But we decided, and I can't talk about this in open session, but we ran into some snags with that concept. But there are creative ways to try, but it's really hard to secure a psychiatrist in this day and age that would devote 20 or 30% of their time to one district. But there is an identified need. This is a great way to start those conversations, or not start, continue those conversations, because there is a crisis out there, and we know it. And your tables are charged, despite the x-axis not being well defined. Right. It shows that it's increasing, which is very concerning. So,
yeah,
two things. I think I agree with what you're saying. I think it's difficult when you deal with individual students, healthcare, pieces like that. One thing I'm curious about is, and again, take time. We can get creative. I don't know if there's a residency program. We'll be willing to do rotations into a district like that. That's definitely a little outside the box, but there's some serious medical schools in the area, whether it's BU or Harvard or anything else. Maybe that's a possibility. I'm also curious if they spoke at all about destigmatizing mental health, right? So I know that in the last 5 or 10 years, there's been a big effort to do that. I don't know if they spoke to any of the efforts that they went about doing this, right? You can have all the services, but if people are afraid, I think particularly, young men might be a little less likely to speak up. How do they kind of encourage people to use the resources and feel empowered to do so, and not if they're going to get, picked on for it?
Yeah, that was a discussion in another session I went to, that they raised that issue about the stigma, and it was part of a discussion. It wasn't anything that anybody had any great answers to, because that's a societal thing that it's going to take time. But it wasn't so much that they were hiring psychiatrists, it was that they were hiring counselors. So, and the report from Medway, they said that it wasn't hard to find people because they liked the school schedule. They liked the consistency of being on the payroll, not having to deal with insurance companies. They liked having the summer schedule. So they didn't find it too challenging to be able to hire extra counselors to be part of the rent burden services. But to your point, like I think finding a psychiatrist would be, they didn't talk about having a psychiatrist on staff.
Even psychiatric nurse is really hard to find in this day and age too.
But anyway, thank you for thinking about that. I just, it was such a powerful idea, and that also it was being talked about in multiple sessions, made it feel like this is something that's really catching fire in other districts in the state. So, you know, we want to make sure we're talking about it at least.
And we will prepare a presentation on our clinical services.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Upcoming school committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Elaine, thank you for sharing.
No, you're welcome.
That's all right. No, everybody.
Janine, do you have anything to share with the committee about your experience at conference?
I have a couple notes. I don't have a slideshow. But overall, I wasn't surprised, but was pleased to find that a lot of districts are dealing with the same things we're dealing with. They're dealing with how do we work well with municipal boards. That session was like, okay, everybody strap in. But I felt really good about, it did make me feel really good about where we are. And I just want to give a shout out to Steve. A lot of things that I heard people worry about, I think we have worked with our other boards and adopting the budgeting tool that other boards are using has smoothed our relationship with a lot of boards. And I just want to give you kudos that you've helped that a great deal, I think. From what I could tell, other schools are dealing with, you know, how to handle cell phones and school start times is big discussions. I think we are in most cases, if not leading, absolutely, you know, aware and working on the problems that other groups are working on. Two sessions that I went to, one on subcommittees. There is a theme between these two. One on subcommittees and how we can handle subcommittees in with open meeting law, et cetera, and a session on therapy animals. There were issues that came up, and I was like, I honestly walked away not positive whether they were best practices or whether there were these were things we should do for the law, by law, like in Massachusetts. So just wanted to float the idea of if the committee, and I'm not sure exactly how to do this, so I'll just say, could we ask some questions of our attorney, and just say, so subcommittees, for example, should be open to the public. I love going into Dr. Clenchey's office, but is that open to the public? And are we posting them in enough time? And you know, an attorney may say you're doing fine, or they may say, you know, it's going to be better if you move them over here, and you just follow these two steps. At therapy animals, the people that handle therapy animals are very, very adamant about insurance and certification. And that's for everybody's safety, including the animals. And they're like, please don't make a mistake, because they live to bring these animals in and have these programs. They're like, one mistake messes it up for us. So maybe our attorney would have a boilerplate, you know, and a list of certifications that are legit.
We've already done it.
You know, I just thought I'd check.
We have a number of therapy dogs in our district. We're covered. I'm glad you brought that up though, because one incident can mess us up.
Yeah. You know, we have the paperwork in place. Everybody is, you know, crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and just checking in because I had no idea. And so, yeah, it was just things to bring back and go, oh, are we doing that? So that was just, that was my experience, as well as just really, it was really good to talk to people from different districts, find out what's happening. We're kind of like average, you know, we're doing great.
Oh, we're better than average.
Oh, of course we
All
are.
these other districts are
We're
dealing with major issues.
We're superlative.
It makes it feel really good at the conference.
Yeah.
We've got a high performing school district and a completely functional school committee, so. My takeaways are just, you know, for Sean and with Dina watching this back, number of great sessions. And you sort of leave with maybe more questions than answers, and it just kind of sparks future conversation. So I attended a session on the problem resolution system, so maybe I've got some follow-up conversations to speak with Lynn about that. And on-call AI, no surprise there, right? AI is a hot topic. Sean, our guest speaker was Pedro Martinez.
No way.
Yeah, not the Red Sox, Pedro Martinez.
Although we did talk about him.
Oh, let him down.
Definitely not.
He's the DESI commissioner. He's from Chicago, and Texas, but he shared with us at dinner sort of the state's initiatives, 2026 and beyond. Nice talk. The following morning, we had a speaker on breaking the spell of high conflict, which we all enjoyed. And then I attended another session on current issues and developments in educational law, which made me think I ought to maybe check our student handbooks and just make sure that these recent developments are reflected in our student handbook. And then another session on a district's use of social media. And they talked about, you know, how Twitter has become X, and, you know, maybe educators have gone away from that. And they talked about districts using Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms that I'm maybe was unaware of. I think as a district, we've got ways to communicate to the public through our School Now and other resources. I don't think we're a high user of social media. Obviously, there's benefits to that, but there's areas of caution as well if you're going to use social media. And then I'll also say it's a great conference because you leave, there's like 700 people there, 800 people there. And of course, the superintendents are paid, but all the school committee members, for the most part, are volunteers. And you really leave the conference thinking there are some good people out there. There's some people giving their time. Everybody's trying to move a common goal forward. And it's a pretty small community too. Like, you wouldn't believe how popular Kelly is. He wasn't even there, and everybody's asking for Kelly with wife. And when I talked with a lot of the vendors, we either use them or they've talked to us in the past, or maybe there's some opportunity for some future conversations, Cartwheel, you know, other folks. And as we talk through the budget on things that we need to add or cut, it's great to just make these connections. So all in all, it's a great experience, and kind of get you charged up as a school committee member to, you know, see the rest of the 2/3 of the year through. So I'll be trying to go back next year, and I'll try to carry some of these things that I learned and questions that I thought of into some subsequent meetings and some subcommittee meetings as well. So.
It's great. I really appreciate you guys there.
I'm just thrilled that we really went. I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah, we
Thank
missed
you,
you.
Elaine. You obviously were a formidable force there. There's an encouragement, and you know, Justin, you're so right. It's nice to be with a group of people that are giving their time to do good. And the sessions have always been well organized, and, you know, always looked at areas that are common in districts. And there's nothing like being around 700 or 800 people that are passionate about working with children. Right. So glad that the three of you experienced it, and 2 of you for the second year. But that's actually been a dream of mine. I've been school committee for many years, and it's hard for some people to get away. I appreciate it.
It was worth it. Yeah, this was my third. Yeah.
Thank you for doing
Yeah,
it.
there certainly are a number of districts that get distracted with stuff outside their strategic plan. So it's really nice that we have school committee meetings that are centered around the strategic plan. We don't have a lot of community distraction going on. Like, you know, it was great to hear that Boston Magazine thing, but we're not gonna shift gears entirely to try to, you know, be a top performer there. We're gonna stay focused on our mission. And it's wild how distracted some of these districts can get with some community input that's a little misguided. So, right, you guys would share.
Yeah. Although they did have some fun side. I got to go to a session in Falmouth about Falmouth's lunch program
Oh,
that is now including greenhouses and composting.
wow.
And they hired a young chef who actually I think grew up there and then learned around the world and came back to Falmouth. And she's excited about helping the kids, advising which herbs to grow. But they've also integrated it some into their elementary science program. I mean, when they don't just it's like, why do you compost? What are you doing? How does this work? You know, which is not. I mean, it is a science. So that was fun.
It's awesome. And the food was good, I assume, then, after that comment?
Hmm?
The food was good, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, well, the food in there was good.
The food at the conference was fine.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So next year is gonna be in Danvers.
Oh, not just yesterday.
Yep,
Yeah, that's
no
good.
more
Huge
Hyannis.
change.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hyannis is not close for anybody.
Well,
Except
yeah.
for people on the Cape.
Except for Falmouth.
The hotel changed hands, and I guess they're not as interested in offering conference.
So I
They
think
started the bridge project too sometime
Yes,
this
they
year,
are,
so that's
yeah.
gonna cause major traffic.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be going. For those of you in town, we'll be going to Danvers.
Well, Danvers is like drivable.
Yeah.
I drove to Hyannis.
You stay.
Yeah.
I mean, like every
Yeah,
day.
we might not have done the night.
Yeah.
All right, that wraps up the presentation portion of the evening. It's our second opportunity for interested citizens. If there's anyone with us this evening that graciously stuck around all meeting and passed on the first opportunity, we invite you to the podium this evening.
Thank you much, Rob Brown's 25 Juniper Road. So some community input. First, congrats, Shaker Lane vote, awesome, you know, the volume of voters. Appreciate also all the learning that I've gotten in more than the last year. You folks have been more than patient, and thank you. I've learned a lot along the way. Having said that, I now want to challenge you got Littleton's attention. 98 million got a lot of attention. I'm stunned by my level of ignorance. And that's what I want to encourage you to really chip away at, because I still see myself as being extremely ignorant. Like, I've got granddaughters, you know, Shaker Lane. I don't know what's going on. And that's probably my fault. But I also think there are barriers that I want to just challenge you to overcome, because I think as I spoke with numerous people in the community, I'm not the only person. I've only been here for 4 years. Many people here in Littleton have been here for decades and family histories, et cetera, and they feel like they know it. I don't have that. But cracking that barrier seems like something that I think could really pay dividends for our schools and our community. And so I want to really encourage you to grab this opportunity, because I really think it's unique. And I think that benefits can serve you well for the next time you go for your next big budget, like Tier 4. I think you've really got an opportunity, but it's tough to do it when you're trying to pitch something and you're asking for big bucks. It's far better to do it with regard to already have your audience know you and socialize with you. And I think they're easy ways, but having said that, I've seen what you folks have been doing for years, and the public didn't pay attention. That's shame on the public. But planting the seeds now is what I want to leave you with. Things like an annual seniors, I'll pick on them for a moment. They have annual barbecues with the legislators. They've got 100+ people easy. They have annual barbecues with the fire and police departments. Get another 100 people out there easy. You folks have been at breakfast. You get 20 or 30. A multiplier could be that barbecue sort of session. It gives you the opportunity to sell your best of what's happening in Littleton schools. I'd even suggest, much like walking through a year ago, I realize now I started walking through tours, that Michelle, Beth, and others get. Do an annual at each school. Love to come to your school, or at least I think there's a number of people that if you make the pitch to the Council on Aging, you make the pitch to the seniors at Center and Shattuck Street, I think you'll start to chip away and get someone to come out. And by doing that, 20 or 30 can then tell another 20 or 30. It's kind of like what you did with texting 200 people or whatever, et cetera. And I really think that's an opportunity. And I'll cheat. I'll use your bingo. Seniors love bingo. You could do a bingo game. You could do a bingo game at each of your school. And I bet you get a whole bunch of seniors that would think, I don't want to go to that. But if you say bingo, I think they might come out. And so I just want to hit you with that. And yet I don't want to focus solely on seniors because Sean knows, walking around Long Lake, I was going up to people that I didn't know, and they were rolling the baby stroller. And I was like, do you know about the vote that's coming up, et cetera? Some of them did start to walk away from me because I can be a pain. But there's a lot of people that I've met that are here because of our schools. What you said tonight, and this has been a terrific meeting tonight. So you've got a lot to really offer and to say, but I know because of my granddaughters that you've got a program for welcome before you join, kindergarten, or maybe there's even more pre-K that I'm just not aware of. But I also know people that have quit. I also know I can name the others. There's Maddox, and there's Milo, and those people have just moved into the community. You don't know them, or at least I don't think you know the guy, but I know they're probably ready to say and ready to learn what can I look forward to when my little one is 3 or 4, etc. And I think that you've got this real moment. Maybe I'm wrong. I've only been here for 4 years, but it feels to me like the people I spoke with might be ready to be holding on as the 98 million was going by. So I want to really challenge you to do that. And I think all the forums and all the tours, I think we learned you have to take it to them because they're not coming to you. So I just want leave you with that something. In terms of off the charts, phenomenal. The effort at town meeting with regard to the children, the childcare, off the charts, phenomenal. Here's what I fear is that was so Shaker Lane focused, which it needed to be. And I really think that was part of your successful effort. And I've yet to hear any criticism, not one. All I've heard is praise. So phenomenal. If we don't do that in some fashion, select board doesn't pull it off, which I think Dr. Clench, you and staff, Lynn, Beth, et cetera, you folks made that happen. If it doesn't happen for whatever reason, then all of those young parents with those kids in tow, whether they were the 20 that were in the cafeteria that were literally holding babies, or 126 that you had signed up, even though you asked register in advance, you only had 70 some register and you had 120 that night. Those people you want to come out to town meeting to support your school initiatives. I want them to be there. And it's going to take consistency of knowing and more or less forcing potential town officials for broadcast it, communicate it. Tell us in advance, you're going to pull off the exact same thing. You can count on it. That way we get that generation that's really bathing. And I really have my kids out at 7:30 and 8:30 at night. But the programs that you offered were worthwhile to be there. because nobody complained about it. It wasn't just go off and, do something. No, it was, they really did something, et cetera. So I think those are things that you can really build on. And then the other part that I saw Julie Lord, didn't know her a week and a half ago, or now. I went to the Tech for Seniors, and I'll close with this. Did I need it? Probably not. But did I want to try it just because I'm looking for how can relationships expand? I was impressed. I mean, I was really impressed. Take it to the center in Shattuck Street. Right now, it's isolated in the library, and I get it. That's where the students are. But if you get the center of Shattuck Street, I can tell you, because I go in there to bother a person or two. And there's 20, 30 people doing all kinds of, this activity or that activity. And if those kids are there with seeing seniors that are there with them, they're gonna say, what was that? How's that? And you're gonna get that multiplier. So that's my pitch. 2 more pitches, I'll be quick. I think you're already underway with this one. But I spent a little bit of time at the building committee last night talking about specifics with regard to detailed design. For you folks, it's a different version of that. I think you're already underway with Park and Rec and the memorandum of understanding. I can't emphasize enough how, as I went to different groups on the town side, the select board side of the operation, to try to get their cooperation, try to get their endorsements for the Shaker Lane proposal, et cetera. I won't say it was resistance, but it wasn't what it can be, and it wasn't what I think it is today, which is they really came through after an initial me wondering, just me, I'm not saying there was ever a question because you folks probably knew it, but I questioned what I was hearing. And when I hear things like a memorandum of understanding with regard to how to utilize the schools, because you folks are in charge of it. So just resolving that and getting that out of the way and getting that done, and just eliminate the reasons for somebody to have a nit to say, I'm not getting what I want. Same thing for the community use of the new Shaker Lane. I encourage you, you got several years to do it. Get the fundamental agreement in place. So as soon as that great building happens, it's available to be used night after night, day after day. So that's.
Thank you very much. Rob, I'm happy to report that I did not get a call about you, so you did okay.
If I could speak directly to what Rob said, first of all, thank you for everything you did with the US group. We're instrumental in that. It's important to call out. It is funny you bring this up about outreach. Kelly and I recorded our first podcast this afternoon. It's now on YouTube, Spotify, town website. Something I'm going to try and do every month. Have a different guest. Justin's going to be the guest next month. So we're trying to reach back out that way. I've discussed with other community members too. You might remember leading up to the town meeting that I held virtual office hours from about 7:30 to 9, kind of at a time period people are actually home and they have to leave when they're trying to take care of their kids. Something I'm also interested in doing again on a monthly basis, just to kind of meet people where they're at, right? And kind of keep this momentum going. And I think all of us created strong networks with our push to get the school built. And I think keeping that blood flowing within those lines is going to be really important. So when things do come up, or when members of the community need things, right? We serve them. So when they need things from the other, right, we're there to do it.
Thank you for that. Rob, just so you know, for the last 14 years, we have an annual senior luncheon in the spring. So we have about 100 people there.
So amazing, because I honestly don't know.
We rely on the Council on Aging, but I guess the second point, you're starting to read my mind, which is scary. I've been in deep thought about how do we get back in the game of social media, since most of us went off X for various reasons. And we have school now, and it's working very well, but when Sean and I were talking today, I was talking about some of the ideas and I think our next step is to utilize School Now, try to hook in with the town listserv and get them to sign up for School Now. I'm not sure how automated Council on Aging is. I think they still send buyers home every month. Maybe they do have a listserv as well. And we can add them to our School Now communications, have listservs. So everything we push out as a school, in our schools and school department, will go to a broader audience. And we are getting a message board at the central office as well, which will be used to push out all the good things that we're doing in our schools. And I have to say, as a superintendent, it's on my agenda for our next AC meeting. Something has been lost. And I see that because when your superintendent isn't getting the information about upcoming events the way I used to, we need to really rethink what we're doing. And no fault of anybody's. I think we're making dangerous assumptions at this point in time. And a lot of it is the loss of Twitter X. And having that message board, I'm going to put in some expectations for schools in terms of upcoming events. Need to go out on School Now separately from the school fly, so that it's showcase. And we really need to up our game where we were 4 years ago. So I'm glad you spoke tonight because I've been in deep thought about this for about a month, trying to figure out how are we going to get back where we need to be without using Facebook or Instagram. We have this internal system that can become more external if we design it properly. Thank you for that.
All right. Subcommittee reports. Assuming that no one from Zoom. Okay, go. I'll close interested citizens. And we'll move through our subcommittee report. The first of which is PMBC.
Yeah, so I can speak at PMBC or I can wait until the shaker land. It's all kind of the same.
Why don't you, oh, it is all the same?
Yeah.
Okay, so no PMBC report. Okay. Budget subcommittee, unless I missed anything, we don't have any
I don't
report. Did our numbers get submitted to the town?
Yep, submitted to the town. I think the joint meeting is sometime in January, I believe, but I don't have the exact date
Okay.
on that. School committee, FinCom, selectmen. I do know the town currently, the town budget model is currently, I heard a number of around 2 million in the hole for the town as a whole, so where that goes, the town will have to figure that out as well. I just wanted to share that, so.
And we have a meeting with the town.
Yeah.
All right. Policy subcommittee, got a couple policies to revisit here for a second reading this evening.
Can I make a motion to accept these policies? Or should just someone else need to make that?
No, you could. I had one sort of clarifying question that I attempted to ask about it beforehand. So maybe I'll just see that all the way through right now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I was slightly confused to say, IKF is the graduation requirement. And it goes on to list, you need 116 credits. I don't think, my question isn't that we need to change the policy. It's just, I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You need 116 credits. I'll just use the example of which, 4 years of English for a total of 20 credits. And then when we go to IKFE, which is different, it's the competency determination. We change the sort of the criteria a little bit. So if we look at English language arts, we say you need 2 years, and then you've got 4. Well, actually, you've got more than 4 because it goes on the second page. You've got a number of courses which to choose from. And there are other sections in particular where I was curious, where it says something about, like if we were to look at science in particular, it says, the second half of the middle block says, or its equivalent as approved by the high school principal or designee. So I guess my question is really, this is for folks who potentially have completed their K-12 education. MCAS is no longer a requirement at the state level. they revisit the district and say, here's my transcript, this is what I did, could I earn a competency determination? And as long as their transcript has these items on it, they would then receive a CD. Am I understanding that
We're
correctly?
supposed to, yeah, per the state, we're supposed to have that capacity to all the high schools to grant that for alumni.
And that's done at the school level.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, the CD, Justin, replaces the MCAS requirement. So they had to have something for the accountability measure, which is tied in federal funding.
Yeah.
So the competency determination is in its place. It's listing subjects that used to be tested at MCAS and beyond for certain students on IEPs, et cetera. And we had to come up with criteria for developing or for determining competency of subject areas. Even though we still offer MCAS, it can't be used for competency determination.
So not the school level, but the district level, right? When you asked if this was done at the school level, this would be being done at the district level.
The district level.
This determination then says you have a competency from the district.
Right, it's operationalized at the high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it becomes the high school principal or the high school principal designee.
Okay.
We had determined whether or not that subject
Oh.
matter has been mastered by,
I was thinking of a different thing. That's it.
I mean, it's not uncommon for the high school principal to get students in from out of state or out of country. And they have to determine whether the subjects they bring on their transcripts are equivalent to the courses of the soft. Then they determine placement on these.
So if someone comes in as a junior, then that kicks in.
From an independent school or from overseas.
Yeah,
We have to do a transcript review
right.
and make sure that they, in order to receive a high school diploma from OHS, they have to meet that requirement in addition to graduation requirements.
so if there's someone that has completed their let's say they, can't use the term graduate, let's say they completed their education at Littleton High School, had previously not passed the MCAS, so therefore didn't receive a diploma, they could now come back to us. And so long as they met the definition in IKFE and and passed all the criteria in IKF, we would then issue them a diploma.
The appeals process on the third page of the policy
go.
outlines that. So any student that finished, enrolled within Littleton Public Schools between 2003 and 2024, when MCAS was considered the CD, can come back. And it would be with a transcript review, assuming that they then meet all the CD in this policy, along with the local graduation requirements. We then would be able to issue a diploma to that individual who previously was not eligible solely because they could not pass MCAS.
Okay. And then my other question is, do we have someone, the general population takes these classes anyway, so they're gonna go through but do we have someone that helps advise students should they be in a situation where they're not taking the normal workload for a number of, could be any possible reason to say, geez, you've got a couple semesters here left. We should really push to try to get these classes accomplished if you're able to do so, so that as you finish your schooling within Littleton, you would then be eligible for a diploma.
Right, our school counselors and then student IEP. The special education liaison works closely with the school counselor and me.
Okay,
To
so
make
it
sure,
becomes the special education liaison
yeah,
and really the principal.
or the assistant
Or
principal.
coordinated
Right, before.
guidance.
Okay.
We work very hard to help students get to the finish line that might need a different track path for their chapter.
Okay. Those were my questions.
Yeah.
All right, Thank you for that explanation. So, Janine, would you like to make the motion?
Sure, now I have to get back to the page. I was following along. Just a sec. All right.
Okay, great.
There we are. I move that the school committee accept the following policies as for our second reading: KCD, KHB, IKF, IKFE.
Second.
Motion made by Janine, seconded by Elaine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. And then our fourth subcommittee is the Shaker Lane Building Committee update.
Great. So we've done a lot of work with construction manager at risk. So we started meeting the subcommittee underneath the Sugar Lane Building Committee in October. Once the vote's successful, we move forward, we put out the bid project. We had 8 bids come in. We put the list down on Monday the 6th as a committee. 2 have since pulled out, which is not fairly not unsurprising. The remaining are Consigli, Gilbane, Shawmut, WT Rich. We will interview them each for an hour long, likely night of December 15th and December 16th, with 2 each. And then we will reach a decision on the 16th as a subcommittee and present that on December 17th to the full committee. Those are all meetings. We would encourage people to either come in person or watch online, whatever is best for them. But yeah, that'll be the next step in the process. And as I kind of highlighted before, part of the reason why I kicked off calling it pause on Littleton Public Schools was the Tiger Pond. Part of the reason why I kicked that off is because we do have this big project. We did just get the town to approve almost $100 million. We have a lot of ownership in that. Transparency is important, so I think it's important to have this going forward. Additionally, with the news of Ellie retiring, I think that's important through that process as well, that we have a way of communicating. So, more to come with that.
Great.
Thank you so much.
That's an in-person meeting, but there's a Zoom option as well. Great.
Where will the in-person meeting be?
To be, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great community event people might want to come out for. All right, is there any other new business, old business before the school committee? No. All right, I will mention that our next school committee meeting is December 11th, 2025, 7 p.m. at the Littleton Police Station. One, come all. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Motion made by Elaine, seconded by Sean. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we have officially adjourned.